East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals, we are live.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to welcome everyone to the November 28th, 2023 meeting of the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals. Chairman Deline cannot be with us tonight, so I'll be chairing this meeting. Tonight we have scheduled public hearings, and we'll get right to the first one. This is for David Larkin of 14 Ingalls Road, Spring, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-077-01-13.4. The size and location is 26,456 square foot total. The description, the description is to demolish the existing swimming pool patio and approximately 65 square foot of the residence, and to construct 230 square foot of first and second floor additions, 182 square foot second story deck, 600 square foot swimming pool, pool equipment, pool patio, fencing, outdoor shower, and an upgraded sanitary system within the jurisdiction and setbacks of tidal wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20 of the East Hampton Town, and 6 variances are required for this application. Variances of 40 foot, 35 feet, 26.4 feet, 25 feet, 20.8 feet, and 19 feet are required from 255-4-30 of the Town Code to construct the addition. 60 feet, second story decking 65 feet, pool patio 73.6 feet, pool fencing 75 feet, and swimming pool 79.2 feet, and outdoor shower 81 feet, respectively, from wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is a residence zone X flood zone and the SECRA class type 2. Council, do we have proper record of service and posting?
Yes, the updated service and posting are both in order.
Thank you. This is in, I believe, Member Savarise's district, and she did the field inspection.
Yes, thank you. This is the official notice. The only thing I do want to say in terms of the notice is it only indicated variances. It did not indicate a natural resource special permit. So I just want that on the record. Other than that, it was properly posted. I've been to the property a few times. Next, please. Just for the record as well, all of the proposed structures, as I know there was a little discussion about surveys, I'm referencing the March 20th, 2023 survey, which I believe shows all the structures we're talking about this evening. This is as I'm entering the property. As you can see, there is standing water. This property is contiguous with the waters of 3 Mile Harbor. Next, please. This is the pool. I have a couple of different angles of the pool. This path actually leads to the patio. Next, please. This is, again, a picture of the swimming pool, which is going to be replaced. This is going to be taken out and replaced with another pool. Next, please. This is the patio, the brick patio that I'm actually on my way now to the, and also you can see in this photo the outdoor shower that exists now. Next, please. Oh, and also on that, all right, this is a good, go ahead, next one, Tyler, that's cool. This, to the right of this wall, I believe, if I'm reading the survey properly, that's where they're proposing their new IA system. And as you can see, this property does steep down, and this is in a harbor protection overlay district. Next, please. This is the existing shower that exists today, and behind that is the pool equipment. Next, please. Okay, now we're on the north side of the residence. This is all extensive decking that goes all the way from one side of the residence to the other. Next, please. This is just a shot of what a beautiful property this is. This is actually, 3 Mile Harbor is their neighbor. Next, please. Just another shot of the fencing, and to give you just a little sense of the property. Next, please, Tyler. This is just an outside patio area that extends before you get to the rear of the house, which is actually would probably be the front yard because we're on the water side. Next, please. Again, this is the deck that currently exists. Next, please. This is the, not the side affected by this application. This is actually just showing you a second-story deck that actually already exists. Next, please. This is, if I'm reading my survey properly, this is where, coming around that turn where the proposed first-story addition will be and the proposed second-story addition. Next, please. Just a photo of the backyard, give you a sense of the property and how it looks. Next, please. This is just a wet bar that is actually off of the brick patio before you come to the front of the residence. Next, please. I think that's it. All right, thank you, Tyler.
Thank you. We have representation here tonight.
Yes, it's Lori Wiltshire for Land Planning Services. So the application was submitted on November 1st of 2022, reviewed on January 24th of 23, and then we resubmitted a revised survey dated March 20th, 2023, depicting the IAOWTS on April 4th of 2023. The application is to reconstruct the swimming pool and patio in the same basic location of the existing pool and patio on the landward side of the house, to add a 165 square foot kitchen addition over an existing deck, to add a second-story deck on top of the kitchen addition, to expand a second-floor bathroom by 26 square feet over the existing first floor, to construct a new outdoor shower, replacing the existing one, to replace the pool fencing, and to upgrade the sanitary system to an IAOWTS. All of the proposed improvements are further from the wetlands than the existing improvements on the site. There are no other dimensional variances required. The project does not exceed the 50% expansion cap. We have 2 letters of NJ from the New York State DEC and a Health Department notice stating that everything is approved once we submit the NRSP/variance approval. The applicants agree to the proposed mitigation, including the project limiting fence, gutters, leaders, and dry wells, and the 2-foot separation to groundwater.
That it?
When you install the IA system, could you, how are you going to protect that? I mean, I noticed that the property does steep,
Yeah,
goes
so
down
there'll be
with-
project
with
limiting
hay
fencing.
bales, or how would you
Absolutely.
protect?
Yeah, there's going to have to be hay bales on this side of this decking here, and we'll probably put them up here on the retaining wall and along here and over here, just to keep it from running onto, because the dirt will run onto the property as well if we don't
Right,
retain it.
exactly.
Yep.
The TAM suggested there was possibility of moving
Yeah.
this addition further away from the wetlands.
Yeah, I was going to bring that
It
up.
doesn't make any sense. We're already further than the existing house, and this is the kitchen here, and this is a kitchen addition. So putting the kitchen addition over here doesn't make any sense with the layout of the kitchen. I mean, they're trying not to actually, this is a wide open glass enclosure here. They have to take out appliances and everything else in order to put this addition over here. Here they're just popping it out to make more space where there's already a glass wall.
And the proposed addition is over, currently improves.
It's over this decking,
Right.
and the second-story additions are over the footprint of the existing house.
Any other questions? Young? No? Thanks, Lori.
Assume the shower has a
Oh, wait.
dry well with it? The existing shower has a dry well already in place with it?
I do not know the answer to that, but you can certainly impose it as a condition of approval.
That could be a condition.
You said you agreed to all the project conditions, but the TAM suggested additional vegetation along the edge of clearing would certainly be beneficial in reducing runoff. And I was just wondering
I spoke to my client about this, and they already have a 30-foot conservation easement buffering.
Okay, that wasn't clear from the
Yeah, it's on
plan.
the survey, and they don't have much yard left after that. So they've got very little, where you see they have some chaise lounges set up and some patio furniture where they dine. If we start cutting into that, they won't have that exterior space to use.
But with a harbor protection overlay district, it could be something that we do look at.
I understand, but a 30-foot conservation easement is pretty significant. I mean, normally we're asking for 25 feet, and this is already established.
Just something we think about or look at because of the district it's in. I mean, it is a property with environmental constraints.
It is, but it's also very minor improvements, and the IA is, I think, significant mitigation considering what's there now. We're
Terry,
not actually expanding the use of the property. We're not having more bedrooms or any more people, just a little more space.
This does look like there's a fair amount of space for some additional revegetation or buffer.
And it would just
In the
be
direction of the
reducing the
harbor.
runoff and impacts.
That conservation easement is pretty solid in its own right for doing that, as it exists now. Plus, it has, I think it's biologs to help with that, too.
Okay, something
Anyone
to
else?
talk about.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Tyler?
Tyler Borsak for the planning department. You just swear me
Oh,
in.
I'm sorry. You swear to affirm, that tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Sorry.
So the subject property is located on the west end of Ingalls Road. It's fronting on 3 Mile Harbor, as was already noted in Springs. The property that's before the board is contiguous to the waters of 3 Mile Harbor. The harbor is a New York State significant fish and wildlife habitat, excuse me, and is part of the Peconic Estuary Critical Environmental Study Area. Ultimately, any activity that would degrade the water quality of 3 Mile Harbor would adversely impact the biological productivity of the area, making this area especially important when considering improvements on the lots. Overall, the proposed project appears to be some fairly minor additions and changes to the existing residence and the replacement of an existing swimming pool and associated structures. Being within close proximity and setbacks to 3 Mile Harbor, impacts from structures on this property extend far beyond the boundaries of the parcel itself. Any additional construction on such a constrained property should be evaluated carefully to ensure that projects are well thought out and limit impacts to the minimum necessary. Given that the residence is pre-existing to modern zoning, it is limited in its potential expansion by section 255-860A of the town code, which is the 50% expansion cap. The 50% cap is an absolute limit on the ZBA's ability to grant variances for non-conforming portions of non-conforming buildings. In this case, the original residence was 1,420 square feet, which was in 1982. That would limit non-conforming expansion to 710 square feet. In 1989, there was an addition to the residence, which was 526 square feet, which left the remaining 184 square feet for possible expansion to the residence. With the removal of 65 square feet of the existing residence and construction of 260 square feet, the applicants are under the 50% cap by approximately 19 square feet. Ultimately, what that means is that the gross floor area of the residence after construction is proposed to be 2,111 square feet, where they could reach a maximum of 2,130 based on the 50% expansion cap. It's worth noting that the 50% cap is not a guaranteed right to construction, rather a limitation on the powers of the Zoning Board of Appeals for that expansion of non-conforming structures. The proposed project includes small additions to the residence, no closer to wetlands than the existing improvements. Question for the zoning board was already mentioned. Maybe the proposed northern addition would be better located on the east side of the residence to increase setbacks. Relocating the addition to the east side of the residence would result in an increase in setbacks by approximately 14 feet. However, the addition is small in size, it's 165 square feet, and is proposed over an existing deck. So impacts on the wetlands compared to the existing improvements are likely minimal. Along with the first floor additions, some removal of the residence on the second floor and a minor addition on the west side of the second floor bathroom. This bathroom expansion is only 26 square feet in size and is within the footprint of the first floor below. The proposed outdoor shower is a replacement of the existing outdoor shower, just slightly further north on the property. The proposed swimming pool and patio are nearly the exact same location and configuration as the existing swimming pool, with only minor differences between the two. And finally, the proposed sanitary system is in one of the most conforming locations available on the property and should be an improvement over the existing sanitary system, which may just be a single cesspool. The board may want to consider if they feel that additional mitigation is necessary to offset the work being proposed and the increased improved and impermeable surfaces on the property. The project is calling for slight increases in both lot coverage and total lot coverage, and the board may find that additional mitigation is warranted. The proposed sanitary system upgrade is certainly a significant improvement over what currently is existing, but with limited vegetation buffer to 3 Mile Harbor, the impacts of runoff on this property are fairly high. Additional vegetation along the edge of clearing would certainly be beneficial in reducing runoff and the impacts associated with that if the board feels that additional mitigation is warranted. Then it was noted that there's a 30-foot scenic easement, but the minimum setback for clearing from tidal wetlands is 50 feet. So any additional vegetation would certainly help, A, reduce runoff, and B, bring the property back into at least more conformity, if not in total conformity with setbacks for clearing. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
You have a question?
I'm good. Are you good, Tara?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Do we have anybody here in the public who wants to comment on this application? No? Do we have anyone online who wants to comment? We have anyone waiting on the phone?
We have no one on the phone line.
Okay, thank you. Laurie, do you have anything else you want to add? Okay, with that, then, Savory, you want to close it out?
In the matter of the application of David Larkin, 14 Ingalls Road in Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-77-1-13.4, I make a motion that we close the public hearing and record.
Second?
Concur.
I concur. Thank you. Thank you, Laurie. Move on to our second hearing for tonight. And that is for Jasmine and Carlo DeFlorio of 57 South Fairview Avenue, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-28-03-05. The size and location, let me get this here, okay. The size and location is 35,764 square feet at 57 South Fairview Avenue, Montauk Beach Development Corporation, subdivision number 6, south portion of West Lake Residential Section, lots 9 and 10, map number 1016, Montauk, and I've already read in 300-28-03-05. The description is to allow a reconstructed deck, existing patio, walkways, generator, and fencing with gate to remain within setbacks of freshwater wetlands and front yard line setbacks. Relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20 of the East Hampton Town Code, and 7 variances are required for this application. 4 variances of 53, 81, 60, and 100 feet are required from 25-4-30C of the Town Code to allow the existing stone patio to remain 47 feet, pavers 19 feet, generator 40 feet, and fencing 6 feet, or 0 feet respectively, from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setback are required. 1 variance from 255-4-30A of the Town Code is required to allow fencing to remain within wetlands where no structures are allowed to be constructed. 1 variance of 50 foot is required from 255-4-30D of the Town Code to allow clearing to remain 0 feet from the edge of wetlands where a 50-foot setback is required. 1 variance of 19.6 feet is required from 255-11-10 of the Town Code to allow the existing generator to remain 10.4 feet from the western front yard line where a 30-foot setback is required, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B Residence Zone X, the flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And council, do have a proper record of service and posting?
You do.
Thank you. And this, I believe, is a member of
This
Burgers.
is mine. Okay, this is Well, initially, it was posted strangely for November 3rd, but as of a week ago, they did correct that and put the proper notice on it for tonight's meeting. It's a corner lot, so this is the notice that was put on the South Fairview side of the property, and that remained intact. Now, I turned around from there, and directly across the street is the entrance, almost the entrance to Montauk Downs State Park, the golf course. Next. Now I went across the street and shot back at the house. Again, it's the corner. So I am on the South Fairview side, and then I'm going to go down around the South Fulton Street side where there's another posting which did get knocked down by the weather over the course of the week. It was intact last Tuesday, though. Before I did go down South Fulton, this is just a shot up in the easterly direction of South Fairview, and that shrub there at the end of the grouping, the yellowish kind of color, seems to be approximately the area of the property line for this application. Next. Another shot of the corner showing a little more of South Fulton Street going down toward the south. Next. There's a wetland along that whole portion on South Fulton, so I walked down from the corner and just took a shot of a couple of see the wetland marker at the bottom, the pink ribbon. So it is a wetland that's down, running from the property down onto the side there toward the roadway. And I'm going to continue down there, and then we'll have a shot of the other posting too. Next. That's another one with the wetlands notification. Marking going down Fulton, South Fulton. Next. This is a replacement notice that was, well, replaced from the one that was there a week ago, and actually it was illegible, but aside from that, the next shot is actually how I found it. So the wind had knocked it down. I just put it back up long enough to get a shot that it was there at all. Next. Okay, now I'm on the South Fulton side driveway. By the way, the survey I'm looking at, there had been an updated survey sent in before the hearing since the TAM had been done. It's received November 17th, 2023, and dated November 13th, 2023. So that's the one we're looking at using for this. So now I'm on the South Fulton Street at driveway entrance. You can see the block apron, and I'm going to walk up toward the paver portion of this driveway. Next. Where am I now? Well, this is, I have walked up and did just a shot of the front of the house from here.
From the house, that's the house across the street.
Oh, the house across the street, thank you. Okay, thank you. That's the house across the street on South Fulton. Next. Okay, now I'm walking up toward and you can see the paver area that was replacing the gravel driveway and that portion of it, and you see a basketball net that's there. You're going to see a lot of shots. It's a very busy kind of property. And that's now I'm facing, and again, you see Montauk Downs across the street in the distance. Next. This is a shot, I just turned and took a shot of the septic covers that are in the front yard there. Next. And it's just a very nice Ilex reticulata that was burying at this point. Next. Now it's another shot of the front driveway. This the other end of the driveway where my car is parked, and that's going out on the South Fairview side. Next. And I turn to take a shot of the drainage that you saw there, that round cover in front of the garage. And some of the pavers, it goes down slightly to capture some water. But actually next, what I noticed is this is on the other side near where on the wetland side of the paver part. And that actually, it was hard to get the grading, but this actually slopes down even greater toward the wetlands that are there on the South Fulton side of the property. And next. Now I turned around and I'm shooting up toward you can see in the distance that gate that is up there. I'm going to walk up there and take a couple of shots. Right there, next. Okay, skip that one. I was having some issues with sun and shade. So, just before you get to that gate, it shows there is an irrigation system, and this is where an AC unit and some of the power panel is located. And next. Oh, actually, this, I'm shooting through the gate, the wood in the front. The gate is about 7.5 feet high. And I just took a shot through the gate toward the decking that exists there. But first, I'm going to turn around here, because this is the other location on the survey that shows a gravel driveway, which is actually no longer gravel. Next, Tyler. This is the area of this other notated gravel driveway. The gravel has been covered up, and it's becoming, covered with grass.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
This is on the survey. There's another gravel driveway
Oh.
indicated
Right,
on the northern part towards South Fairview Avenue.
Right.
This is that driveway, but it's no longer gravel. I'm just letting you know that. Next. Now, I took this survey that we have here. They had made some changes prior to the hearing, and one of them was to take some of the fencing, this deer fencing that was actually in the wetlands, and moved it out of the wetlands. So I just took a shot, and I'm going to walk down there a little bit on the outside of the fence toward the wetland area. Just take a couple of shots there. But this is the new location of the fence on this latest survey. Next. There's a shot into the wetlands. I didn't see any flags on this side to know exactly where the first marker was. Next. It's another shot in which also that house in the distance is the next door neighbor on the South Fairview side. Next. And now we're inside the gate, and I'm going to go across the back, take these shots. This is the decking, and next, it's just a broader view of the entire thing. And there's an outdoor shower there in the middle, and I'm going to walk toward the south end where some of the staircase and the stone patio. Well, they're proposed, but all of this stuff is already there. There's the outdoor shower. Next. This is a shot. I'm standing kind of by the fence now on what would be the northern side. And you can see there's a lot of grading around this entire property that grades down toward the wetlands, both on the South Fulton side and on this side of the property. So I'm trying to capture some of that. Next. This is in the direction we see at the top of that grass in front of the fence is the area where the patio and the fire pit exists. Next. It's just trying to capture again some of the grading, and go to the next one, Tyler. Because this is where the staircase and some of the work is proposed to come down. This is just a shot of stairs going up from the basement. Next. This is the other gate on the property, because one of the, well, we'll hear that there was a removal of a gate noted, but I don't know what gate was removed, so the agent can, speak to that. Next. And this is the patio area, the stone patio. And again, you can see how it drops off down toward the wetlands. Well, this one, not so much to those wetlands, but you can see it grades down. Next. And that's another shot at it, the perspective, and in that distance, you can see the driveway of the neighbor directly on the South Fulton side. And is that it? Next. It's the sprinkler head. Next. And this is another shot from the patio area of that area where they're proposing to increase the decking, and they have a little drawing here handwritten in on the survey that they can explain to us how what it is they're doing there. And I believe that's it. Is that it? Just another shot from the back down toward the front of the house on South Fulton side, and showing the grading going down. And one final shot of the patio driveway, and this is taken from the garage side, so you can see that drainage that was put there in front of that. Next. That's it. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Terry?
I'm good, thank you, Chair.
I have one, and that is that you said that the fence had been removed or proposed to be removed.
The fence they did, this survey reflects that it was, if you look at the survey before it, this portion of the deer fence was moved out of the wetland
Okay.
and put here,
Okay,
where it exists on the survey. The other survey, that previous survey, shows how the fence was in the wetland, so they already went ahead and moved that part.
And that
thank you.
gate on the roadside, did you say that was removed? I don't have that.
Okay, we have a document that I guess the applicant is the
Well,
agent in
well,
this
the
case.
applicant, who's representing the
You took a
applicant?
picture of it during your field report, though.
Yeah,
So
it
is
still
there.
exists.
Okay.
I don't know. That's-
All right, we'll go to
that's-
the applicant. If you're representing
you
yourself,
can
you want to come up?
Explain all that to us.
Are you an attorney? Are you an attorney, sir?
Jasmine DiCarlo, the owner?
Are you an attorney?
No.
Okay, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You can proceed.
Okay. The gate that was removed was on the old gravel driveway. There was a gate on the road, which wasn't even on the property line. On the property, it was off the property, but that has been taken off.
On
when
which street
the-
side?
I'm sorry?
On which street side?
That would be on the South Fairview?
Right over here.
Oh, okay.
Originally.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was removed.
The deer fence has been moved. The pavers in the driveway are, as you know, it's a very low piece of property. And when they used to drive in, they would actually sink a little bit right there. So it gives them a place to park without getting stuck. The deck addition, if you look at the current deck, it sort of juts out at an angle, and these stairs, there's no railing there. It's an extremely dangerous setup. I mean, it would never pass code today. I'm a builder, and that wouldn't fly. The deck needs to be redesigned. The proposal isn't to go any closer to the wetland, just to basically straighten it out. The same square footage. Would move a little bit in this direction and lose this section, this Y section over here. So that would get added over here. We've just moved over.
If you want to, there's a stylus underneath the screen, and you can always annotate on the board itself if that helps anybody.
Oh, there it is. That's stuck. Okay, where was I? Okay, so we went over the pavers. The generator was placed there. There's a house very close here. If we put it there, it'll be very close to them. It can be moved, but it would be a lot louder for these people. This side, the electric comes in here, so that was the easiest route.
Yeah, you can draw directly on the screen. It's a touch screen.
All right, so generator.
It's okay.
Sorry, I tried.
Whole new thing for us. Go
Put
ahead.
that back down. And we've got rid of the gravel at this area. This deck will stay the same, that'll stay the same. This just needs to be straightened out. And it's very old as well. There's 4x4s. looks like somebody's grandfather built it. The stone patio is one of the few flat pieces of property, on the property. And Jasmine has gotten Lyme's disease twice, and she thought that the patio would keep off the grass. When she had this done, she didn't realize that she needed a permit for it. So that was one of the big problems. Open to suggestions on anything. There's a re-veg going on, and
So when you refer to revegetation, are you talking about all the areas that were cleared without permits?
well, the current owner has not done any clearing, so this was all done prior to her ownership. But there's a revegetation plan that I think you guys have.
I actually don't see it. Do you have it?
I haven't seen it.
No.
We haven't.
It says in your letter
plan
of
book,
whatever
yeah.
date that is here, that we got, that the
Mr.
revegetation
DeFlorio?
plan was
A
submitted.
revegetation plan that will fill in a lot of this over here, that, well, this clearing here will be all refilled. And I believe over on this side too, Jasmine, right?
Yep.
Yep. Right over here.
Okay. Going to address the.
Come back from the wetland setbacks.
Can we ask?
Wait, what I would like you to do, you submitted this, I assume this was you that submitted the document, it wasn't signed by anyone? Okay. So what I'd like you to do is go over, you covered the gate, okay, so we know about that one. Number 3, could you, you're asking for some rather large variances on this, including the fencing and the clearing. Can
Well,
you,
there's no clearing. There's no clearing being asked for.
no, you already, the clearing was already done. All of this work was done without the
Why don't you go
benefit
back?
of a permit,
Sorry,
right?
excuse me, want to go back to the microphone so we can make
The
sure we're
clearing
on record?
was done prior to her buying the house.
Well, regardless, it's.
Yes, I'm just saying, she didn't do any clearing.
Unfortunately,
Well, when you buy the house, you
Yeah.
buy that with
You
it.
inherit that problem.
you inherit the issue.
I just wanted to make sure that you guys know that she didn't
That's
do
why I
any.
brought
She-
up the revegetation earlier, Terry's referencing.
So, removing the deer fence from the wetlands, which with this updated survey, we see you already did. However, it doesn't address the clearing, really, the issue. And I didn't see a
Maybe Tyler could-
revegetation plan.
Tyler?
We can get to Tyler on that.
Can you pull up the
There's just a
re-veg plan?
couple of other.
I don't think we
can
have a
wait for
re-veg
time.
plan.
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to ask, do you have one on record? Because we don't have one we're looking
I
at
haven't
here.
seen one. Yeah, so I don't know.
Did you do the work? You said you're a contractor?
No, I didn't do the,
You didn't do this work.
I would do the deck. I'm a builder, not a landscaper. So I'm here to,
Well, one of the reasons we're bringing this up, it's not just for variances, it's for a natural resource special permit.
yes,
So that's why the cleared areas having to be revegetated is an issue. And also, the TAM references a change in the driveway from permeable gravel to impermeable gravel, which,
well, they're pavers, they're on a sand base I didn't put them down, but I was told by the person who did, they're on a sand base and there is a spacing on them, so it should be rather permeable. It's not going to hold water.
Yeah, the concern is these variances are very large, and when you're on the property, the house is at the most high point of the property, and all these things that were done without permits lend themselves to runoff going down toward the wetlands on both sides.
Okay.
And,
What exactly lends towards runoff?
well, almost everything you have there, but the pavers,
The
the
runoff
pavers
was
for
going to
the
happen
driveway.
before any of that happened. I mean, it's on a hill.
that's a
there's-
problem for runoff is you're on a hill.
Yeah.
Right.
So that
But
gets-
it's,
One of- that's
but we're
one
not
of the
creating any
Concerned about
runoff.
runoff.
There's
because of the
nothing done
steepness
here
of
that would
runoff.
create runoff, I don't believe.
anytime we harden any area, anytime you change it from a
Right.
natural state, you're going to increase a certain amount of
Okay,
runoff.
but then on the other side, we got rid of the gravel and made it all grass for
We
more
understand, we
absorbency.
understand what the efforts is being made. We're just making the point that there are areas here, particularly when you talk about the paver area, the fact is there is some seepage can go between pavers. That's still going to shunt a lot of water into another spot. So
Okay.
that's a consideration.
Is there a safety factor involved here?
Excuse me?
Is there a safety factor involved?
Well, you're saying from your point of view, there is. We're looking at it
Well,
from the
Yeah,
NRSP.
no, I understand. That's what I'm saying. There's got to be a balance.
We'll
somewhere.
take that into consideration, of course, when we make a decision. But I think it's important for us to also know that if a re-veg plan exists, that we have it, because one of the things that you're proposing is that your re-veg plan is going to help offset some of what we're looking at as conditions that are of concern. Now, I know it was in, and it was brought up by Member Berger and others, that it's in the note, but we didn't actually get the re-veg plan. So
That,
if it has
I
it, you
thought
have to
for sure
submit
I had
that
dropped
to us.
that off when I put the new surveys in.
I haven't seen.
We don't have it in
No,
our
we don't have it.
package up here. And then we'll ask Tyler, but he's already commented that he doesn't think it exists. So if you have it, that's going to be something you're going to have to submit for us for consideration, because obviously this is a big portion of what you are offering back, the
No problem.
rebate for this. And that's something that just a verbal on is not going to make it for us. We're going to have to see that plan.
Sure.
Okay.
Understand.
Okay, and minimally, as far as the re-veg, you have the edge of clearing line, and the deer fence still is encroaching beyond that edge of clearing line. So many times our revegetation, we want that revegetated, right, anything that goes beyond that edge of clearing line.
Okay, so you would like the deer fence moved to the edge of the clearing line?
I'm not saying we want that.
Okay.
We're not going to
I'm
give you
just-
anything
I'm trying to-
now, but the
I-
fencing would have to be moved.
She wants to do
and the revegetation.
everything that she can to be correct. So we'd like to find out what
And
we can do.
we appreciate that effort, but what Vice Chairman Johan and Member Berger are trying to say is because one of the things we have to look at is the preservation of natural resources. And this is a very constrained lot. These are very big variances. And there are wetlands involved, which is why we are concerned about impermeable pavers, water, being able to drain, clearing. These are all things that would be associated with qualifying for the approval of a natural resource special permit. So that's why we're
Okay.
bringing these things up.
And one of the variances that you're asking for is 50 feet to allow the clearing to remain 0 feet from the edge of the wetlands, where a 50-foot setback is required by code.
The setback on which, I'm sorry?
The clearing.
Any
One of the
clearing?
things requested on this is a 100% variance for clearing. And that's a huge variance.
But maybe
Now,
if we had the landscape plan,
Well, that's why it's.
Well, okay.
Well, apparently, you said you've already prepared one, we just don't have it?
Yes, I thought I dropped it off. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, you also moved the deer fencing, which was asking for a large variance. And now what is the new variance required for the deer fencing, now that you moved it?
That hasn't,
I mean, when we get an updated memo such as the one you submitted, typically, this is what the variance was, and now that we did this, this is what the variance we're requesting is.
Right.
Because right now, everything's kind of up in the air with what we're seeing.
okay. Nope, I can get all that for you.
And there are other changes that you mentioned you're still going to do that are not reflected on the survey?
Other changes that are not on the
Something with the
survey?
decking? You were going to move something else with the decking?
Well,
This
the
is a
current,
draw, you drew in those stairs, right?
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give you an idea of what was going for. If you look at the, this is the survey without any drawing on it. And if you, the deck, you see how it's shaped off to the side?
Right, okay. Yes, so this other stairs where it looks straight is what you drew in, you hand drew in, okay.
Yeah, just trying to straighten that side off.
Okay, why don't we,
Let's hear from Tyler.
let's hear from Tyler. Let's just clear up what we can about the re-veg, and then we'll have to call you back and talk about what it's going to take to get the right submissions. Tyler?
Tyler Borsak for the planning department again. So the subject parcel is located on the northeast corner of South Fairview Avenue and South Fulton Street in Montauk. The current application is requesting approvals in order to allow several structures to remain as constructed, including a small stone patio with walkway, paver driveway addition, generator, and fencing. The application has gone through some changes since the assessment was written, including removal of a gate from the road right-of-way on the South Fairview, and relocated the deer fencing from within the wetlands to a setback of approximately 3 feet. The wetlands within jurisdiction consist of a portion of a fairly substantial swamp containing a ditch and standing water in its lowest elevations to the northeast. The wetland is encroached upon by predominantly improved parcels, with the exception of a vacant town-owned parcel. The wetland is part of a complex drainage system and influences other wetlands in the area. Surface waters can frequently be seen seeping north across South Ferncroft Place and continues within the road right-of-way of Gage Place directly into an extensive wetland complex that drains into the southern portion of Lake Montauk. The soils underlying the site have been identified as having high seasonal water table or slow permeability, contributing to the poor drainage in the area. Overall, the project requires some fairly significant variances. The changes in the driveway from permeable gravel to impermeable paver is a poor choice so close to wetlands to the south. There is a catch basin north of the paver driveway section, which could help to mitigate runoff if the driveway sloped towards it, but increasing impermeable surfaces so close to wetlands may be more than is appropriate given the constraints of the parcel, and that existing semi-permeable driveway had already existed. Vehicle parking and passing concerns may justify the change in the driveway. The generator in need of relief is located very close to the western front yard lot line and could be located in a more appropriate location in regards to wetland setbacks, although the impacts from the generator on wetlands are minimal. The board may want to discuss with the applicant why the current location was utilized for the generator, and if there are reasonable alternative locations what could meet setbacks from the front yard lot line and better wetland setbacks. The stone patio and walkway changes on the east side of the residence are fairly centralized between the two wetlands within jurisdiction and is a fairly small structure for additional outdoor space. The deck reconstruction and slight modification is as similarly minor change to the existing structures. The applicants have taken the planning department's comments from the technical analysis memo into consideration and have removed the deer fence from within wetlands, and they now maintain a minimal setback, as I noted, was 3 feet, approximately. The fencing is still very close to wetlands since the property is so constrained, but the fencing area on the parcel is also fairly small. The planning department had also suggested that any clearing within wetlands and its buffer be revegetated. It sounds like the applicants are amenable to that to try and minimize the impacts. Obviously, increasing the buffer to wetlands would greatly improve the conditions on the property and be a benefit to the wetlands. But as I noted earlier, we have not received any revegetation plan as I've seen yet, but that certainly could also remove the need for a clearing variance, since there was a fair amount of clearing back there at the time of the last CO. So a revegetation certainly could remove that need for a variance. Another variance removed was the variance for structures within wetlands, since the fencing was removed from there, and the setback for the fencing was changed from 0 feet to 3 feet. As the application is for existing improvements, the board should consider what mitigation and project conditions they feel are appropriate for any approved structures, such as a revegetation plan approved and implemented prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Tyler, you said that there's a dry well relative to the hard paved area, the area of pavers, but it's upland of that, so it's not flowing to there. Is there a recommendation to put one to the south of that, although that's closer to the wetlands? Do we want to see a
Certainly,
dry
yeah, or
well?
like some sort of like a French drain or something like that.
Yeah.
would probably be helpful in redirecting any runoff that comes off of there.
Right.
South of the pavers?
Right on the south side, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be the most directly impacted area, certainly.
Okay, anyone have
And you
any
said the
questions for
clearing,
Tyler?
could be, the clearing variance could be,
Variance could, yeah, it seems, would be
eliminated.
fairly easy to eliminate, given how much clearing there was during the last CO. So,
could you show us roughly how that would flow on the survey?
what would?
How that would look on the survey, the 50 feet of the clearing?
No, not that it would be 50 feet, just that it would be beyond what the last CO showed. So the reason they needed a variance was that there was clearing beyond what the last certificate of occupancy,
You want to see it return to the last CO?
at the very least, yeah.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't be a difficult.
And is that
task. I imagine they probably, with whatever they drew up, it already meets that.
Is that listed on the property card? Existing
A
condition?
copy in the existing conditions
Yeah,
memo
I'm
of
looking
the
for
CO.
that.
We have
I
it.
can pull it up if you want to see the CO.
I think we have it.
Yeah, let's look at it.
Sure. So that edge of clearing was back here. So it cleared a little bit further north up in this area since then, but they did have a significant amount of clearing already during the time of the last CO.
Okay, we okay? Anybody else? Before we have you come back up, is there anybody in the public who wants to comment on this application? Thank you. Do we have anyone on the line who's looking to speak about this?
We had someone on the line who called in and then they dropped out. And so we don't have anyone currently on the line, but I was awaiting a caller, but they dropped out before it was their time to comment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Do you want to come back up a minute? We can talk about this re-veg plan. So you can tell from our conversation that the re-veg plan is key to this. And had you submitted it, we would be able to comment on whether it was adequate enough or not. I think you have to get that re-veg plan if it exists and bring it into us. We have to then put it on record. And it may require us to an analysis by the planning department, which we will, to see if it's sufficient. And then we'll have to take that into our consideration. So you're going to need an extension from tonight to leave the record open. How long will it take for you to get it properly in state? You know, the re-veg plan that you want, based on our conversations, is going to represent your effort. Does that exist already, or are you going to have to work on the one you have?
The revegetation plan is on my computer.
Okay, so you'll print it out.
Print it out and bring it to you
You've
tomorrow.
heard the conversation tonight, the recommendations of the planning board, the concerns of this board here, of the planners rather than the planning board, our concerns. That re-veg plan should reflect that. And so you should look at that and then have that submitted. Now, is that something you can do in how much time do you think you need? A week or 2 weeks or?
Today?
Yeah, 2 days. What if we give you a week to get that submitted?
Yeah.
Okay? And
Can
then,
we also get something, this is language I find very vague, that the actual
Yeah.
deck size won't change, but will be reconfigured. I mean,
oh, yeah, we
that's
need that.
really
We need that
very,
exactly.
we need a lot
That-
more
that-
specifications.
If it's
than
going to be refigured and we don't have that on the survey, you penciled it in, then we're going to have something that shows us exactly the dimensions of what
Not a
that's
problem.
about. Okay?
And
Thank you.
not hand drawn in.
Okay, so are you
Well,
good
we
with
would
that?
need
Do you
to
understand what the board's looking for here?
The re-veg, and we'll get the survey marked up with the proposed new deck.
No, it sounds very much like,
Dimensions.
Yeah, the actual dimensions of it.
Yes.
Exact, and how, what do you mean by?
In the original submission, I did make a full sketch of it, so you guys should have that.
we have that sketch?
You'd have to update your survey anyway. if
Right, well, that's what I'm saying, but you
so-
should have that plan.
But
I
we
made,
wouldn't be
I
able to
made the
make a
drawing,
decision
a
unless we have
construction plan for it.
And the fencing is still 3 feet from the wetland.
Right.
Proposed deck that was attached to the original application?
So there's the dimensions of the deck,
Okay,
and this would be the house here. And the stairs now go down this way,
right,
and the deck goes like an angle.
and
like
an
that.
angle, right.
But if you walk out the door, the stairs are right there. And if you were to fall down, you could possibly go all the way down because there's
Right,
no
'cause
space in
it's-
stair right
Right,
there.
Okay, thank you.
right,
So,
thank you.
So we would need deck and we got you.
well, that's your deck
re-veg
drawing now.
in.
He's saying that's the drawing you submitted. Right, that's the
But it's not
submitted.
located, I mean, we
Okay, we don't
need a
have,
little bit more information in terms of
we
location.
require a survey on that.
Survey, you know.
Yeah.
So you have
Require an
the,
updated survey on this? I'm asking council, should we have an updated survey?
Oh, yeah,
on this
and-
rather than just.
You should have the distance for the fence from the wetlands included on there, and probably have the gravel
So
driveway
you're going to
removed.
need more than a week. You're going to have to
Same
get
way.
us, with your sketched in changes to the deck, will have to show up on a new survey so we
Okay.
can see that. Okay? That'll have to be submitted along with the re-veg plan for consideration by the planners.
Okay, and the deer fence still is a huge variance. You have 0 feet from the wetland, now it's still 3
Okay.
feet from the wetlands, and the gravel driveway that no longer exists.
because it's such a tight area,
If,
what would you suggest for separation?
I don't think we're going to make any suggestions.
we will
You're going to come
suggest.
back with a proposal,
Yeah.
and we're going to see it on both the survey and on the re-veg plan. And I think you can tell from the conversation, the re-veg plan is important here because of what clearing has gone on, as was described by Tyler, since the last C of O. So we'll have to see that that's been corrected, and we want to see what, materials are in your re-veg plan and whether it's acceptable to the planners. Then we take that into consideration before we make a final decision.
Okay,
and the gravel driveway, you're leaving that grass?
yes,
Yeah, okay, so that should come out.
So that should be indicated on the
Yeah,
new
on the
survey.
survey,
Those
yeah.
changes should be indicated on the survey. Okay?
The removal of the gate, they're removing the deer.
Well, the gate did come
Everything
out, there
did
was
come
just
out
multiple
already, okay.
gates, so that one's okay.
Okay.
Okay, so
No,
1
that's-
week? You said 1 week?
No, you're going to need more than a week now. You're going to get a survey.
The survey is going to take longer than a
And then
week.
can planning look at it as well?
The re-veg plan, well, let me talk to Jamie. I think if you give me 2 weeks, we could get that done.
So we'll give you 2 weeks, and if it's impossible for you to do that, you'll let us know. You can
I'll
have
reach
to have an
out.
extension on that, okay? All right, so we'll leave it at that we're going to leave you for 2 weeks from tonight to submit the re-veg plan and the accurate
Revised
survey,
survey.
revised survey.
With all the changes, yeah.
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 Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Think anyone else? No. So you want to
Good
take
job.
that?
Okay, so for Jasmine and Carlo DeFlorio at 57 South Fairview Avenue in Montauk, tax map number 300-028-03-5, and make a motion to close the public hearing and leave the written record open for the submissions from the applicant for 2 weeks.
Second,
Concur.
And what's the date, 2 weeks? Let's put a date on it.
Number 19.
December 12th?
the 12th?
2 weeks until December 12th. Okay.
Okay, I concur. It'll move us on to our third hearing here. Let me just get this out here.
Gottlieb.
Yeah, I know. Let me just turn my paperwork over here. Okay. Our third hearing is for Steve Gottlieb, 46 Mako Lane, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-175-06-02. The size and location is 7,500 square feet. At 46 Mako Lane, Beach Hampton, Section 5, Block 34, Lots 4 and 6, map number 1763 in Amagansett. Again, it's 300-175-06-02. The description is to demolish, hold on a minute here. The description is to demolish the existing residence and associated structure and to construct a new 1,818 square foot two-story residence with 1,305 square foot of decking, walkways, and a new sanitary system on a parcel of land containing dune land, beach vegetation, and freshwater wetlands. The relief requested a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20 of the East Hampton Town, and 3 variances are required for this application. 2 variances of 78 feet and 71 feet are required from 255-4-30C of the Town Code to construct the proposed decking 22 feet and residence 29 feet respectively from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required. 1 variance of 73 feet is required from 255-4-30B of the Town Code to allow the sanitary system to be constructed 77 feet from freshwater wetlands where 150-foot setback is required, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is A residence, AE flood zone, elevation 10, the secret class is type 2. And this is in Member McGivern's.
Want to check to see if it's got the dates?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't ask, yeah. Do we have a proper posting of service, of records of service and posting?
You do.
Thank you. Thank you, Joan.
It was properly posted. Next. That's looking towards Montauk Highway. Next. And that's looking towards Marine Boulevard and the ocean beyond. This is the corner of the driveway and a walkway on the left side of the existing house, the west side. Next. This is also part of the driveway, and there's, I guess it's a garbage bin shed. It was heavily vegetated in the front of the house. Next. Now I'm back on the walkway on the left side of the house, and there's a little entranceway to, I guess, basement storage area. Next. Now I'm at the end of the walkway on the left side of the house, and there was this really cool-looking gazebo. A treehouse of some kind, I don't know. Otherwise, you can see it's not vegetated as mentioned in the TAM. Next. This is the deck, and you can, yeah, this is the deck that wraps around the house on the northern side. Next. This is also part of the deck that goes back a bit. Next. It's like an L-shaped deck. That's a corner of the deck. Next. On the steps going up to the deck, there's a little outdoor shower, which you can see. Next. I was off the deck and walked back, and that's what some of the vegetation looks like. Next. Now I'm around the house, and I'm taking a picture actually of the front of the house, but it's so heavily vegetated you can't see. But what you can see in the forefront is the garbage bin shed. Next. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions here on the board? No?
I'm good.
Do we have representation here? Andy, do you want to identify yourself?
My name is Andy Hammer. Good evening, Chairman, or Acting Chairman Johan. I am here tonight representing Steve and Jennifer Gottlieb, the owner of the property at 46 Mako Lane. I've known Steve and his family for many years. I hope I can be brief in my presentation. This isn't a real typical redevelopment application that's driven by speculative potential. Steve and Jennifer have owned this property for 27 or 28 years, to my knowledge. And it did have a couple of minor changes since over the years that predate the town's NRSP regulations. If you know anything about the Mako Lane section of Beach Hampton, most of this area was developed in late 70s, maybe even before that. So this area has been largely developed since that time, and this is probably one of the, maybe not the first, but it's certainly right in the heart of when this area was developed. This redevelopment application is not aggressive. The owner explained to me that this aging house is showing wear, and it's pretty much near the end of its useful life. The construction methods from 1967 compared to modern materials and methods are very different in their life expectancy. It's a pretty unique area in some respects. It's a harsh area exposed to wet water in various forms, ranging from salt air, humidity, rain. It's also complicated by being exposed to a low groundwater table. As Steve has tried to maintain the residence over the past decades, it's been apparent that a more modern structure with proper waterproofing, vapor barriers, efficient HVAC, low-E windows, a brand-new IA sanitary system, et cetera, would meet the owner's needs better than continuing to address the sagging and water-damaged house. I imagine have mold and mildew concerns. Ultimately, the redevelopment will allow these owners to enjoy the house without maintenance, repairs, and an inefficient use of resources in a much healthier and more durable fashion. The owner and the architect clearly understood the board's policies. I did want to mention I have Lucas LeBlanc from Stell Architects here as well with me, and I believe the owner is watching on LTV and could call in if we had a question that I can't answer. But the architect did propose slightly more gross floor area. It's 471 square feet, but the resulting residence is still modest in size and it's just over 1,800 square feet. The proposed residence adds a partial second story. That's the master bedroom that is, ensuite that's being added that will serve as the residence's third bedroom. All the corresponding metrics from the existing versus the proposed were thoughtfully improved, as I can explain. There is a detailed sanitary plan that was prepared by Paul Grosser's office showing a new AI sanitary system. It's proposed as a Fuji Clean unit with geomat leaching structure that will maximize its separation of groundwater. This is a dramatic improvement over the existing sanitary conditions on the property. There's also a detailed revegetation plan prepared by Marshall Paetzel that depicts substantial introduction of native vegetation through the site and will restore areas disturbed by the installation of the sanitary system construction in a manner harmonious with the Beach Hampton area. I can actually remember being on this property, I want to say around 2004, and it was well vegetated then. So what you see today is even more well vegetated, and it's not native vegetation. So I think it's certainly an improvement. The architectural plans that were prepared by Stell Architects are also a coherent and understandable addition to the property. It proposes to retreat the improvements to the Mako Lane along the front yard setback line. This will increase the available buffer to the wetland areas located directly west of the property within the reserved area of Gansett Dunes. One other item I wanted to draw your attention to was the updated survey that I submitted to the board on November 2nd. Based on a suggestion in the TAM, we made some changes to the improvements. We're actually now proposing a reduction over the existing total lot coverage by 8 square feet. So not only were we able to eliminate the proposed expansion, I think it was 217 square feet thereabouts, we achieved a reduction of this important metric, and I think that's a positive indicator of the overall project and the improvements to the existing conditions. The wetland setback variances are inherent in the property. If you look at the survey, they're part of the existing Gansett Dunes reserved area to the west that most of the properties on Mako Lane's western side yard lot line back up to. But improving our setbacks for structures from the wetlands, the ability to provide a more significant vegetated buffer adjacent to the reserve area, and revegetating almost the entire property after removal of the existing residence and construction of the proposed residence will be more conforming to our current wetland code. Basically, our proposed project improves on all relevant metrics under our current code. I would submit that this project represents a net environmental benefit and would qualify for the grant of the requested NRSP as well as the wetland setback variances. Two other comments that I wanted to address. The survey does show an existing AC unit location that's north of the residence. We are planning on installing AC units on the north side of the residence in a location further east than the existing. I did have the architects place the proposed the proposed AC units on a survey that I can submit right now. There's plenty of area available on this side of the residence that does comply with side yard setbacks to accommodate them. We don't have specs for the units proposed, and if we can, and the HVAC company says it's allowable, they might tuck them under the existing deck on that side of the property. We just don't know how much air circulation would be allowable and how much clearance they'll have to install the units once they're spec'd out. So I'd like to submit this to the board just so you have a copy of it.
Thank you.
You'll see this.
Thank you.
Did you take the 8 feet away?
What's that?
The 8 feet that you reduced, where did you take that away?
From the decking?
Did that change the variances at all?
I think it was from walkways, decking proposed, they're very small. They took as a matter of fact, I could have, Lucas, where exactly it all came from, but to my naked eye, it was a reduction in the size of some of the improvements overall that,
So the variances are still 78 and 71 that you're requesting?
I believe the metrics haven't changed, and if they did, it would be within a foot or two at the end of the day.
So just to be clear, the TAM is suggesting elimination of 216 square feet of decking, and that's what you're referencing, that you took away from?
We took away 225, if I can do my math correctly. That's St. Dennis coming back to me in fourth grade. The second area that I wanted to address that was in the TAM is the sand area on the rear of the residence. This is actually the only unimproved outdoor space or unvegetated outdoor space that on the residential that was denoted on the plan. It's basically a sand feature. This is duneland vegetation. The owners did want to retain that, but if the board feels strongly, this could be added to the revegetation area. Basically, it's largely beach grass, as you can see from our existing revegetation plan. So, we'd be willing to do that if the board feels it's important. Other than that, I'm available to answer any questions you have. And if I can't answer them, as I said, Steve is watching and Lucas is here with me.
Just looking to see, you sort of answered a couple of my questions that I had noted with the changes you've announced tonight, so I don't know if I have another one. Go ahead.
What about construction protocols?
I think they've gone.
I think the lot is actually fairly flat, and, basically, the biggest thing is they have to remove the residence and use project limiting fencing to do that. Most of the other improvements will be built forward of where the residence is being removed and the accessory structures currently exist.
And you don't have any problems with the other recommended project conditions?
No, they were perfectly acceptable.
I'm fine. Anybody?
Did you need a DEC permit or for this?
I don't believe this is in DEC jurisdiction. I didn't handle the initial submissions on this application, but I believe that they received an NJ from the DEC on this.
An NJ?
What's that?
The NJ, did you say non-jurisdiction?
Non-jurisdiction.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed.
But you could certainly put it as a condition of that we submit that for the board's record.
Okay. Are you okay with it? We go on? Thank you, Andy.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Borsec for the planning department again. So this parcel is located on the west side of Mako Lane in Amagansett. The current application is requesting approvals in order to demolish the existing structures on the property and construct a new 1,818 square foot residence with decking, walkways, and a new sanitary system. The parcel is within jurisdiction of significant freshwater wetlands. This parcel is in the Beach Hampton area of Amagansett. And the wetlands within jurisdiction of the property are high-quality, diverse wetlands which contain standing water throughout the year and can be expected to provide all the same benefits as quality freshwater wetlands, especially the attenuation of floodwaters, provision of high-quality wetland habitat, and the reduction of pollutants prior to groundwater recharge. These wetlands are part of a complex of wetlands which are located on the open space parcel to the east, which is part of the Gansett Dunes subdivision. The significance and quality of these wetlands cannot be understated, and the current and future quality of these wetlands are directly related to the development which surrounds them. Overall, the project is proposing similar construction on the parcel to what currently exists today. The sensitivity of the property requires that any construction be closely scrutinized to ensure that it meets the NRSP and variance standards and that is properly mitigated. The application proposes to demolish the existing approximately 1,347 square foot residence and construct a new 1,818 square foot residence with associated structures slightly further from wetlands on the property. The 471 square foot increase in the size of the residence is one of the largest impacts that the proposed project will have over the long term and should be discussed if the included mitigation and other improvements are reasonable enough to justify the increase. The existing lot coverage on the property is proposed to increase from the existing 1,422 square feet to 1,490 square feet, where 1,497 is the maximum. Given the small size of the parcel, the existing lot coverage was already near the maximum allowable with a nominal increase proposed. After revisions to the project, mainly the elimination of a walkway on the east side of the residence, which is where most of the coverage comes down, the total lot coverage is now proposed to decrease from the existing 2917 to a proposed 2909, where previously it had proposed to increase. So that includes, essentially there was a walkway that connected the southern walkway to the northern deck, and that was removed from the project. The planning department had suggested eliminating 216 square feet of decking on the west side of the residence, closest to wetlands, in order to limit the total coverage and where it would have the most benefit to wetlands. The new sanitary system is proposed to be in the best possible location on the parcel, but is still located only 77 feet from the wetlands on the west side of the property, which should make any increase in the gross floor area of the property especially important to adequately evaluate. The residence is proposed to be constructed up against the 20-foot front yard lot line setback and meets all the required pyramid and lot line regulations. A revegetation is proposed to reestablish lost dune land vegetation on the property and also help to provide some level of buffer between the wetlands and the improvements. Given how significant the wetlands in jurisdiction are, any increase in the buffer is important in helping to protect the quality of those wetlands. The addition of dune land vegetation will also help to reestablish some of the dune land characteristics of the property. The planning department would also suggest further revegetating the area behind the residence in order to provide as much of a vegetative buffer to the wetlands as is practical. The area directly west of the residence and decking is currently shown to remain cleared of vegetation. A quality revegetation along the wetland buffer is one of the better tools that the ZBA has in mitigating construction and also helping the property come back closer into compliance with the town code. Additionally, cleared areas in close proximity to wetlands and in dune land areas are out of character with the board's past practices and often result in fertilization of lawns, which negatively impact wetlands. If uncleared space is needed or even desired, the north, south, or east sides of the residence would be more appropriate, given how in close proximity to the wetlands they are on the lot. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
So this area directly to the, I guess, the west here, that's currently designated as a sand area, right? And what's the topography there? I see the topography runs downhill to it, but as it works its way to the west, to the wetlands, is that fairly level there? It sort of reads that way here. When you're on the site, is that what you noticed?
It's
Yeah.
fair, it's
pretty
fairly level at the
flat
back of the lot.
and
It
sandy.
dives off as you get past the property. I mean, obviously,
Not in that area.
it's mostly a topography-based wetland on the Gansett Dune subdivision side.
Right. We have a constrained lot here with a limited ability to do much for us, but in that area, we could look for additional buffer, and that would certainly help us to protect the wetlands. Basically, your recommendation is here.
Yeah, I think ultimately, if the need for outdoor space is needed or desired, then I think there are better locations for that.
Anyone have any other questions for Tyler?
I'm good.
You okay? Okay, thank you, Tyler. Is there anybody here who wants to speak to this application in the audience tonight? No? Do we have anyone online waiting to talk to us? Do we have anyone? Can you hear me?
You heard?
LTD? Are you
Yes,
on?
yes, we hear you.
Do we
Do you have anyone online who wants to speak to us? Do you have anyone on?
No, we have no one on the phone that would like to speak to you.
Thank you. Andy, you have any other comments?
I just wanted to reiterate that that area to the west of the property, we certainly consider adding that into our re-veg plan as, and I think it's just I'm off.
So
I don't want to hatch it.
recommendations, you'd be amenable.
1 second. We just had a caller just hop on right now. May
You identify. Yeah, go ahead.
I? They can. I'll unmute them and they can identify themselves if that's okay with everybody.
But find out if they're for this hearing. You want to see if-
I have to unmute them and then they have to go up online and then they can identify themselves. And they just left. All right. And it was okay. So there's that. All right. Well, anyway, we can.
So that's all I had to say. I would like to think that was Steve calling in, but
I think it was. I'm rather certain it was. Oh, and he's calling back. Please, Steve, stay on the line. All right, 3, 2. Okay, he just left again. I don't. Oh, wait, give me a second. There's something happening with the phone line. I have my phone lines working 100% because I have a listen line that I'm always on, but it seems to be calling up and then hanging up. If you guys could just give me about 2 minutes, just make sure that we are 100% okay, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
That's fine. We can give you 2 minutes. Mr. Gottlieb to call in.
I did want to mention I was very happy that the posting stayed up. I was out of town.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
We had at my marina, they told me their anemometer measured 50 to 60 mile an hour gusts. Was it Wednesday night? I wasn't here. I think it was Wednesday or Tuesday night. It was crazy.
Okay.
Hello?
Steve, can you hear us?
Yep. Hello?
Steve, we need you to mute your phone and your TV in the background.
Okay. I just wanted to thank the board for its
Hold on,
attention.
caller, hold on a minute, caller, hold on a minute. Are you an attorney?
No.
Okay, then you're gonna have to be sworn in.
This is Steve.
Speak, okay? Would you, okay, do you swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, can you identify yourself
I'm
for
sorry.
the record?
Steve Gottlieb.
Okay. Thank you, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to thank the board for giving consideration to our project. I've been a resident since, I guess, around 1993. I started renting the property before I purchased it. And I love it precisely because the board has done such a great job of keeping the neighborhood so close to its original kind of intent and nice balance of nature and dwelling. And it's a great neighborhood, and I cherish it. And I hope we can do this modest improvement so we can avoid the house falling down and enjoy it for many years to come.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Gottlieb.
you.
We have no other callers on the line.
Thank you very much. Joan,
So in the matter of Steve Gottlieb,
hold on. Was there somebody who spoke up? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joan.
in the matter of Steve Gottlieb at 46 Mako Lane, East Hampton, Suffolk County, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-175-06-02. I make a motion to close the public hearing and the record.
Second?
I concur.
I concur. Thank you. We'll go on to our fourth hearing. Tonight, give me 1 minute. Which tonight is for Brett Scalzo. Let me get here. At 149 Mulford Lane, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-84-2-7. The size and lot location is 6,629 square feet at 149 Mulford Lane. I'm against it again, 384-7. The description is to construct 160 square foot of first-story additions and outdoor shower to a one-story residence, reconstruct an existing deck, raise the first floor elevation by 5 feet, and install new helical piles foundation on a parcel of land containing wetlands, dune land, and beach vegetation. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit, NRSP, pursuant to 255-4-20, and variances from 255-4-30, minimum wetland setbacks, and 255-11-72D, relative height restriction of the town code, and any other relief necessary. Variances of 51.3 feet, 31.5 feet are required to allow the closeness of the additions and the outdoor shower to be located 48.7 feet and 68.5 feet respectively from wetlands where a 100-foot setback is required, and to allow land clearing to remain within 3 feet of wetlands where a 50-foot setback is required. 3 variances are required to allow the residents to extend 9.5 feet, 10.5 feet, and 3.5 feet beyond the relative height pyramid restriction along the southern, northern, and eastern lot lines respectively. And council, do we have proper record of service and posting on this? We do. Thank you. This is also Jones.
So there's a picture of the posting, which appeared proper. Next. That's looking, that's looking towards the water from the front yard. I think these are in reverse order. Anyway, go ahead. Next. This is the backyard. There's a, no, this is the front yard, and there's a little fire pit, and the wood you see in the front is like a stoop. And you can see the fence of the property in the front, and it's all grass. Next. This is the backyard, which is all grass, as pointed out in the TAM. And in the far corner, there's a raised planter. Next. This picture of the backyard. Next.
I think that's everything.
That's all? That's all I said here?
That's all I have.
Sorry.
Okay.
Get this online.
Thank you. We have the applicant's representative.
I thought I sent 4 sets of pictures.
Would you please identify yourself?
Of course. Good evening. I'm Deborah Choron. I'm an attorney with Matthews, Kirst, and Cooley here on behalf of Brett Lascalzo, the owner of 149 Mulford Lane. Brett and his wife, Jenna, unfortunately are not able to attend this evening. They have their hands full with their 15-month-old son, but they send their appreciation to the board for your time and have remained actively involved and engaged in this process. Brett and Jenna cherish the area. Brett purchased this home in 2017, and they lived here full-time when COVID permitted them to work remotely. It remains their plan to spend as much time at this property as possible. And since the planning department included as an expired rental registry permit from a prior owner in its history memo, I just wanted to state for the record that my client, the current owner, has never rented the home and has no intention of doing so. And I would just note that whether the property owner intends to ever rent his or her home is not one of the enumerated legal standards for this board to consider, but in this situation, it's worth mentioning because my client enjoys the home himself with his own family. I'm joined tonight by David Rhodes of TF Engineering, who can answer some of your more technical questions, should you have any, particularly with regard to the upgraded IA system that's being offered by the applicant. So before jumping into the finer details of this application, I want to zoom out for a second. Believe it or not, I'm thrilled to have this application before you at this moment in time, while members of the public are most engaged and while we have a committee reconsidering our zoning code. Because while our community is trying to rein in overdevelopment, I've heard people wonder, why would we allow any variances? And why can't people just comply with the code as it is? And this application is truly one of the best examples of why the law provides flexibility within reason. Because this application demonstrates the complexities and frustrations that come along with purchasing a modest older home on a smaller lot, which just so happens to be the kind of property that is most likely to be attainable for a young family. So this application is for an NRSP and area variances for modifications to a 707 square foot single-family residence. It's important to note that the 707 square foot residence was built prior to the adoption of zoning. So undoubtedly, because of the residence's smaller size and older age, when this property was listed in 2017, it was one of the rare single-family residences in our town to be listed at under $1 million. So instead of getting scooped up by a developer and having an application before you that seeks to tear down the existing house and build to the lot lines and the permitted coverage, tonight I have the privilege of representing a young family who seeks to renovate their smaller, older home to simply make it a little more practical for modern living without exceeding the permitted gross floor area, the lot coverage, total lot coverage, or clearing, all while offering everyone's favorite mitigation, an upgraded septic, revegetation, and FEMA compliance. As detailed in my memo of law, the first iteration of this application was filed in July of 2018. And essentially, the original application sought to modify the area of existing enclosed decking such that it would have just become insulated and would have been absorbed into the habitable space of the home. So it may seem like the nature of the application grew, but the nature of the application evolved to address the specific concerns that were raised by the planning department, and we think it will actually improve the general health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood. I truly see no quantifiable detriments. So most extraordinarily, despite all of that, the planning department has recommended the denial of this application, despite the applicant having taken all of the planning department's advice. So the first problem for the planning department is that it improperly directs the board to require that the applicant answer for the sins of the prior owner, demanding that the property be restored to its prior condition before you consider the application. However, the planning department in the technical analysis memo is unable to specifically articulate what the prior condition was and relies on vague hearsay accusations of clearing and a wetland being filled in. Most troublesome is that the planning department knows that the alleged activity was not undertaken by Mr. Liscalzo, yet it refers to a violation that must be remediated. I can tell you that there is no outstanding violation, and there's unlikely to be a violation because the aerial photography absolves Mr. Liscalzo of any wrongdoing, and the property as it existed when he purchased it and as it sits today is not overcleared. So for this board to deny or refuse to process an application until an applicant remedies a non-existing violation relating to the planning department's allegations against an unrelated third party would be a denial of due process and arbitrary, capricious, and contrary to law in any situation, but particularly here where the property is not overcleared and where the applicant is offering 750 square feet of revegetation. So while the planning department states that the area of proposed revegetation is insufficient, I would remind you that this is a very small lot, and I feel compelled to point out that the area of proposed revegetation is bigger than the existing home. The second problem for the planning department is that it demands that the proposed septic system be relocated to the front yard, which, as David Rhodes is here to tell you, is at odds with the rules and regulations of Suffolk County Department of Health Services. So playing this out, if we follow the planning department's recommendations, the site would be significantly more disturbed because the existing structure would have to be moved back towards the wetland to fit the septic in the front yard, and the septic, pretending that it met Suffolk County requirements, would be closer to the mean high water line in an area known for significant erosion. So while I share the planning department's goal of protecting the environment, I have no doubt, and the applicant's experts agree, that the environment would be far better served by the approval of the application as is. So I've addressed the NRSP and variance standards in my memo of law, so I'll just touch upon some of the points to highlight them. I won't list all those standards for you, but I just want to discuss how the application really easily satisfies all of the enumerated criteria. There will be no undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to the properties. The community itself encompasses much larger single-family residences. Meanwhile, this application humbly asks to go from 707 square feet to approximately 867 square feet. And the entire structure, as it exists today, sits within the wetland setback and has been in this location without incident prior to the adoption of zoning. So any work done to this property would be within wetland variance jurisdiction. So none of this difficulty was self-created. Rather, this application was specifically designed such that the degree of nonconformity in its relation to the wetland would not be increased, and so that the requested variances would not be substantial. In fact, it's questionable whether some of the listed variances are even required as a matter of law, considering they're in an area of the home's existing footprint and are within the pre-existing nonconforming structure and do not increase the degree of nonconformity. So if you look closely at the proposed outdoor shower, it actually overlaps with the existing shower's location, and it's merely as if the rectangular shape will be turned 90 degrees. So the proposed change is practically imperceptible and certainly not substantial. And again, considering the shower has existed without incident and without any undesirable impact, it just cannot be said that the granting of this variance will have an undesirable impact. So due to the layout of the pre-existing nonconforming residence and the complexities of the lot, the benefit sought cannot be achieved without seeking an NRSP or variances. So while this property is begging for improvement, no matter what an applicant would come before you asking for, they're going to need an NRSP or variances. And without it, the neighborhood would be left with an antiquated aging septic system next to a significant wetland in a flood zone and a structure that's not compliant with FEMA. So meanwhile, the height variances are necessary as a matter of law to accommodate FEMA. So such compliance, particularly in this area of town, must be encouraged. So again, we strongly feel that the proposed mitigation will have a beneficial impact and will only serve to improve the health, safety, and welfare of the surrounding area. Certainly by the new sanitary system, which will have to comply with current standards, will decrease the nitrogen output at the premises. So the benefits of the new septic system far outweigh any perceived detriment to the environment. Put very, very simply, this application seeks very, very little and gives a whole lot. And it's my contention that this would even be an application that would be used as an example for future matters to show the necessity of variance and NRSP procedure. So I just want to say, Brett, Jenna, and their son appreciate your time, as do I, and David and I are here for any questions you may have. So thank you so much.
So a primary question becomes the septic, because there's no other condition we've looked at here on the board that I'm aware of that placed a septic system within 12 feet of wetlands like this in these leaching fields. Now, I'm wondering why this system couldn't be moved further forward to the, I guess that's the south and the east here, placed underneath with load-bearing covers underneath the driveway, and we can allow you to address that, but I think that that's a concern because I just don't think that we've seen anything quite like this, where we're going to be putting a system of this size hard up against a wetland, which it really is at 12 feet. There's also, and we'll have Brian address this, but there is some concern about areas that had previously been filled in, which I understand are not may not be your clients, but there's still an area of wetlands that we have to consider possibly should be refurbished, and a lot of that's going to have to do with what happens when you bring an additional fill on a septic system in such a sensitive area. Okay?
Absolutely. And the applicant has been having these discussions for years with me already, and I've been having them through the planning department. We're absolutely receptive to these conversations and wanting to do right by that wetland system. But we do also rely on our expert, that's above my pay grade, to design the system. But we have been told that the revegetation, no problem, can go on that proposed system with native species. And so we believe there is a path forward for that.
Before we ask Steve to come up, can we have any other questions?
Well,
I'd like
I
to-
have a question
couple
on
of
the survey.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead,
Well,
Terry.
this is an easy one. And the survey that was up there is not the same date as the survey that I have in front of me.
Oh.
The latest survey is October 4th, 2022?
I have it revised April 14th of 2022, so I'm not sure what survey that is.
I have one dated October 4th, 2022.
Let's see.
Received November 17th, 2022.
Yeah, that's what I have.
That's what you have?
Oh, maybe that is the one that includes the septic on it. Is it a little more crowded looking?
Proposed sanitary.
Okay, so it's,
There's no sanitary in that one?
right, so it's just a little more crowded to include the sanitary system, I believe. But I don't believe the design of the home or proposed
Everything
variances
else
have
is the
changed.
same?
Yeah.
Deborah, I also think, because of the size of, I mean, this is a very small lot, 6,629 square feet, I think.
Yeah.
I think a construction protocol would really be appropriate for any type of construction. But just to be clear on what you're saying, are you saying that the clearing of 2,000 square feet of beach vegetation west of the residence and the partial filling of a wetland didn't happen? I mean, even if it happened
Sure.
prior to this owner,
Yes,
this
so.
owner would still, unfortunately.
So that's why we are offering revegetation. We could have come to you looking to pay for that extra variance. Actually, it wouldn't require a variance because we're not undercleared. It would just be a natural resources special permit. We are offering revegetation based on aerial footage. I don't deny that there were clearing activities. I don't know precisely where they were, whether there was fill added in. I can't speak to that at all. I can't speak to the topographical contours. And so at this point, with us offering that proposed septic in the area of the backyard and the proposed revegetation, we'd be happy to take more advice from the planning department, but I don't think it should, prevent the application from being considered or moving forward.
Thank you.
How much revegetation are you offering?
We offered 750 square feet. So it overtakes, obviously, the crown of the wetland, which the allegation is no longer, moves the line into approximately the middle of the backyard. And, the applicant, might consider more, but to revegetate this vague allegation of 2,000 square feet when we're looking at aerials and we don't have surveys in front of us, that feels overly burdensome. And considering the mitigation for such a small application, it feels, it's a little much. You want to be able to enjoy your home here. You want to be able to walk around the back of your home, have your son in the backyard, and plant what a little veggie garden like they have in the planter. So
I also think that the recommendation in the TAM about the installation, and again, this was already brought up by Vice Chair Johan, the sanitary system being 12 feet from the wetland prone to coastal flooding is inconsistent with the recommendations of the town's CART plan, which does recommend planning for adapting to rising sea level. So have you given any consideration to upgrading, maybe relocating to the south side of the residence? beneath the driveway?
So my understanding is that our experts really looked at this property and that it's due to the constraints of the location of the home and also the setbacks that are required by Suffolk County with relation to the structure and the driveway, that's what's really prohibitive here. So I believe that this was really the best spot for it per the county regs. But again, David Rhodes can probably speak to that better.
Yeah, but it is in, just for the record, this is also for a natural resource special permit, and it is inconsistent with what's recommended under the CARP plan, just for the record.
Anything else? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Can we have you come up and comment on this septic system, please? Can you please identify yourself for the record?
David Rhodes with TF Engineering, 17 Main Street, Egg Harbor.
Thank you. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So as Deborah said, that we looked at this property extensively, and we work really hard to try to comply with the town codes and the health department codes and try to make everything work. The problem we're running into with this project is that the town code and the health department code are polar opposites on this project. You talked about trying to put the septic system under the driveway.
Yeah.
They do have a system, we put it down the road there. The problem with the county is they prohibit septics, PSDs from going underneath the driveway. So we have to go through a board of review. And it's been our experience that if there's a place that you can fit it, on the site that complies with their separations and their codes, they will not grant that variance. And I've had such one where we proposed under the driveway. They said, no, you can move it over and you can put it in. We'd have to take a lot of trees out, but they would not grant the variance unless we had no other place to go. And so in this case, since we had an alternative location, I don't feel that the county would grant a variance through the board of review underneath the driveway. As far as the front of the property,
Side of the residence? They need-
yeah, the south side of the driveway underneath, yeah, under the driveway. We looked at along the front of the property line. The problem is by the time you have your setbacks, you have your, you got your treatment tank, you got your pump basin, and you got your trenches. I need 68 feet of length to try to fit it along there, and the property is only 50 feet. So that doesn't fit along the front there. We also need 28 feet of width in order to meet the county's separation requirements. We've got 13 feet from the property line to the face of the building. So if we try to put it on the north side, again, we need 28 feet of width. We only have 10 feet between the property line and the building. So when it comes all down to it, we can't put it under the driveway because of county prohibiting it. We can't put it along the front because you got water lines that also have to cross. You got electric lines that have to cross in the front, and those need separation of 5 feet. So, and we don't even have enough room to put the drain field as it is without trying to also fit water lines in this and electric lines underneath there. And then, of course, the north side, we don't have any room up there. So, so you can see that the town conditions are completely opposite of what the health department are. And so we're kind of stuck in the middle of, trying to make something work between the two codes.
The system, if it does get placed, as you're suggesting, was going to require what kind of additional fill to allow it to meet regulations here?
No fill.
Well, there's no additional fill over the top?
Yeah. Nope, I stand corrected. It looks like about a foot.
A foot of fill is going to come over the entire system then. So we're still
Yeah.
12 feet from the wetlands and we're increasing that elevation.
Right.
Okay.
The one thing that I did notice today was, I noticed that the distribution trench is closest to the wetland. That could be swapped with the expansion trench, which would give you an extra 5 feet, but takes you from what, 12 to 17, Frank? Would that be it's 12? Yeah. So like I said, we work hard to try to make all the codes work. Sometimes we just get stuck with a project that just doesn't fit both codes. And then now you guys it's the town against the county and what code can we comply with?
Right. Okay, any other questions for, thank you. Thanks for coming up. We'll go to the planner.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. Brian Frank, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So I'd like to kind of break this down into three levels. I think there are three levels of concern with this application, working from the most significant to arguably the least, although that's a matter to be determined by the board. And that really is the history of clearing and wetland filling on this property first, the location of the sanitary second, and then some of the other dimensional variances and structures on the property. The wetland on the I'm going to leave the sanitary plan up for now. I apologize for not putting up the most recent survey earlier. That's my mistake. I believe Deborah is correct, though, that the differences are the most recent survey had the proposed sanitary upgrade as opposed to the one I had up there, which did not. But the structures that are proposed, the additions, the decking, the outdoor shower are, I believe, the same on both of those. So the wetland that you see on this on David Rhodes' site plan here are part of a large coastal wetland that has frontage on Napeak Bay. And this wetland, for anybody who's familiar with this area, as Deborah mentioned, this is an area of known erosion. This wetland is regularly inundated by surface waters from Napeak Bay on a regular basis. You could see in other aerial photos, you could see debris in the wetland storm throw. We have discussed this wetland in other applications and likely will again in the future. But this wetland floods somewhat regularly in severe weather events, whether they're associated with nor'easter, just heavy rainstorm. I'm not going to mention hurricanes because they're a little bit unique, but obviously that applies. This is a low elevation. I don't know if you saw it on the survey that was up there, but the topographic contours, and I'm going to go back and forth on these a little bit. The topographic contours inside the wetland show a 3-foot contour line. The elevation of the wetland is somewhere between 3 and 4 feet above sea level. It's a true groundwater fed wetland, but this is a dynamic wetland. The attenuation of flood waters is one of the most important ecosystem services that this wetland provides to humans. Wetlands provide a lot of benefits to us in general, in addition to their benefits for nature. And one of the most important benefits that this wetland provides is its ability to attenuate, hold a certain amount of floodwaters until they recede. When they're filled, even when their areas around them are filled, that water has to go somewhere else. That sheet flow that would fill up that wetland or that low spot, that bowl, has to go somewhere else. That means it goes into people's crawl spaces. That means it goes into the road. That means it just damages infrastructure that we associate with flood damage. And the unregulated placement of fill in or adjacent to a wetland obviously reduces its ability to provide these functions. I'd like to run through the history of clearing on here. I think I'm very frustrated with the perception that the wetland may or may not have been filled or there may or may not have been clearing. It is 100% crystal clear what happened in the history of this property. The wetland and the extent of clearing are shown on the survey that accompanies the 2012 certificate of occupancy. I'd like to show you that in a moment. At that time, in 2012, the wetlands had already been delineated by the planning department. I have personally been in this wetland on numerous occasions for various applications over the years. And at the time, you'll see from the survey that runs in the survey that was done in 2012 that accompanied the most recent CO, which again is 2012, that land clearing was limited to about 10 feet behind the house and as much as 13 feet west of the house at the southern portion of the property. Clearing and fill, including the easternmost roughly 200 square feet, 206 square feet. This area here, this is about the limit of fill now. Where this existing fence is, This is all lawn now. That portion of the wetland is filled. Topsoil or some sort of fill was brought in, and a lawn was established. It is crystal clear from a comparison of the 2016 aerials to the 2018 aerials. The applicant bought the property around December of 2017. There is reason to believe that the applicant did not conduct this clearing themselves, that it was done by a prior owner, and if you want to call that hearsay, that's fine. I take the applicant at his word. I have shared these areas, the 2016 and 2018 aerials, with Deborah. I've shared them with Mr. Lascalzo. I've discussed this situation with Mr. Descalzo. Lascalzo, I could check the email when we spoke. It was either 2018 or 2019 about what happened here. I believe him when he says it wasn't him. But the bottom line is the applicant, whether it's the applicant himself or any tenants, if there's a rental, I agree it's immaterial, but somebody has enjoyed the benefits of that unregulated clearing, that expansion of the yard for the last 5 years. And it is a regulated area. I want to point out to the board that, the board knows this, and I'm sure Deborah knows this too. Deborah is very smart and does her homework and is always well prepared for these things and knows the code very well. Section 255-4-20, A1, A, and B state that an NRSP is required for any clearing or grading or the deposition of fill within 150 feet of a wetland. Those are activities that require a natural resources special permit. Section 255-4-30D requires a 50-foot setback for the clearing of land relative to a wetland. We have a 50-foot setback, basically a 50-foot vegetative buffer requirement built into the code. If you're going to clear less than 50 feet from a wetland, not only do you need a natural resources special permit, you also need a variance. The house is only 37 feet from the wetland. So obviously any clearing west of the house is within 50 feet. It needed a natural resources special permit. It needed a variance. Additionally, I can't swear that there was beach vegetation there, but I do believe it was. From the area, beach vegetation is also protected. But let's leave the beach vegetation out of it. Let's assume that there was no beach vegetation to keep it simplistic. But it's important to get to the bottom of this tonight and to make sure that there isn't any allegation or hearsay or maybe this happened and we don't know because there's a lack of certainty. It really is crystal clear. And whether the owner did it himself or bought the property this way, it's the current owner's responsibility. The owner kind of inherited this problem or condition, I should say, from the prior owner when he acquired the property. And if there was an updated CO at the time, he might have been aware of it, or the prior owner might have been made to restore it before the deed transfer, or at least the current owner could have gone into it knowing what had to be done to rectify the situation, whether it's applying for the appropriate relief from this board to keep it as is, restore it through either the planning or the natural resources department, or ask for some relief in between. And that was the nature, if you take a look at the file, and many of Deborah and I conversations in the early stages of the application really focused about, this is the elephant in the room, and we really can't go forward with what are square footage wise small additions until this is addressed. Either we're going to leave the fill in the wetland and that's going to be part of the application, or we're not. And it's come as far as it's come, and it's up to you. But I do want to step over to the presentation station. I want to show you that CO. I want to show you those two aerials. I want to answer any questions that you have, because again, this is pretty black and white. And the fact that there's this air of uncertainty about it as presented by the applicant is a little bit frustrated. It would be best if we can just agree that what happened shouldn't have happened, do a better job of fixing it, because the poorness of the revegetation plan is also part of the issue here. And I'm going to just start with the CO now, and hopefully this will answer everybody's questions. So this is the 2012 CO. This was issued in 2012. It references a William Walsh survey dated October 26, 2012. This is the one that was attached to it. This survey is William Walsh. It's October 26, 2012. You can see the wetlands that had previously been delineated by the planning department. You can see the 37-foot setback from the wetland to the house, and you can see the edge of clearing. So my measurement says that this is about 10 feet from the back of the house, and this distance is a little farther. This is about 13 feet west of the back of the house. All of this is vegetated. There's no topography on this survey. But again, if you take a look at the survey, either the one I had up or the one with the sanitary upgrade on it, you'll see the contour elevations. You'll see that the wetland boundary, is roughly is in between the 3 and 4 foot contour line, and that 3 to 4 foot contour line kind of forms this shape in this area here. These are the aerials that I wanted to show you. This is what the property looked like in 2016. This is 2016. Again, these are these contour lines. This is about the 3 foot contour line. This is 2. This is all, pretty well vegetated here. This is what the property looked like in 2018. There's really not much debate here. This is that tree that you still see in the middle of that, in what has become lawn. There's a fence back here. This has all been, it's all level. It's higher. It's a higher elevation than the wetland. If you're at the back of the yard and you look at the fence, you'll see a drop off on the back side of it. Was it topsoil? I don't know. It was clearly filled. There's a lawn there now. And this is something that I think is paramount to address in the application. I also want to point out that this is the revegetation plan that we got. While having good intentions, this is hard to kind of make heads or tails of. This is the tree that's in the middle of the yard. Oh, geez, I'm sorry. This is the wetland boundary. These contours are really not shown here. There's a description about restoring the previous contours as well as possible and planting everything with switchgrass. There's a reference up here to, 750 square feet. This is kind of hard to accept as a revegetation plan for the condition on this property. I want to move on to the sanitary, unless somebody wants to ask any question now, I want to move on to the sanitary system, which I also think is an important element of the application. And for that, I'm going to go back to Mr. Rhodes's plan. What you see is the sanitary system is on the west side of the west side of the house. That distance is about 12 feet. The existing sanitary system appears to consist of a single cesspool, probably in groundwater, clearly antiquated, no doubt about it. It's about 30 feet from the wetland. So I can't, Deborah has a lot of experience with applications in this town. David Romes has designed probably as many sanitary upgrades as anybody has in this town. I can't think of any circumstance where a sanitary system has reduced its wetland to the distance by more than half in this proximity in conjunction with a zoning board application. And quite frankly, I think if Deborah were aware of examples of that, she would have provided them tonight. But if she can think of any, I'm happy to give her an opportunity to address that. If David has designed any, I'm happy to hear him discuss that. But again, this is a dynamic flood-prone wetland. This wetland is going to get inundated with water. I've done lot inspections on the adjoining property to the south within the last year, and I'm telling you, the property on the lot to the south in an area that was exclusively beach grass is now a mix of beach grass and Spartina patens, which is an indication that, that brackish water, that salt water from overwashing it, whether it's overwashing from the bay or groundwater rising as sea level rises, this area is getting wetter. Installing a brand new sanitary system 12 feet from a flood-prone wetland is not good planning. It is not consistent with the guidelines or the requirements of the code. It's a 92% reduction of what the town code considers the appropriate minimum setback for a new sanitary system at 150 feet. And I want to point out, I'm not suggesting that this property has to meet a 150-foot wetland setback for a sanitary system. It obviously couldn't. That's not the law that applies to upgrades. But 12 feet is obviously an enormous reduction of what's considered ideal. And in looking at this, if that means the addition, this is the main addition on the house, if this addition has to change so that the driveway can move over, if a pressurized drain field can't go under the driveway, that needs to be explored. Maybe another leaching system other than a pressurized drain field needs to be explored. But it is not appropriate under any circumstances to install a new sanitary system 12 feet from a large, significant wetland that we know is undergoing change. I just don't see how that reconciles with either the natural resource special permit standards or the variance standards of the town code. And, well, I'll leave it at that for now.
Could you comment on the assertion that the town's code contradicts or is at odds with?
Well, I think it's a little bit
Department of Health?
hyperbolic, quite frankly, like a lot of things in this application, to be honest, because it's also true that the Suffolk County Sanitary Code generally requires sanitary systems to be in the front yard when public water is available. So there are a number of parameters from the county that this is an area that's served by public water. This house is served by public water. So, we're not meeting all the health department standards either. And I think if just because another property went to the Board of Review and didn't get a permit for under the driveway, I don't know if that property also had an alternative that would have installed a sanitary system 12 feet from the wetland. We don't even know if a health department application has been made at this point, if there's a reference number, but I'm sure Deborah can address this. What I do want to point out to the zoning board is that there is a DEC permit issued for this, and there's no reference to this sanitary system in the DEC permit. The survey that was approved by the DEC is the older one that does not have the septic system on it. There are no conditions in the DEC permit that reference this sanitary system. The DEC does reference a 750 square foot revegetation plan that mentions 3-gallon shrubs on 5-foot centers, which is consistent with the guidelines that we often require in revegetation plans. That's not what was proposed in this revegetation plan. This is all just switchgrass. Obviously, you can't plant woody vegetation above a drain field. So I'm not so sure that the sanitary upgrade was part of the DEC, that the DEC was aware that that was an element to the application, because again, you have a copy of the DEC permit in the file. There's absolutely no reference to it.
Are we saying that there, from your point of view, there's really no alternative here if we were not to allow it to be 12 foot from the wetland, which you're pointing out the reasons you're opposed to it, and that Mr. Rose is saying that it's very difficult to put this where we're suggesting you move it forward? Is there any other alternative in here that we can look at, we can consider?
Well, I think there are always alternatives. There's a fair amount of work going on here. The house is being raised to meet FEMA. There are additions that are proposed. I'm kind of, and maybe this house shouldn't have additions until they can design a sanitary system that can meet better wetland setbacks. It may be that rigid, but this is unacceptable on any level. I can think of circumstances where the zoning board has allowed the in-place replacement of a sanitary system that was already very close to wetlands, especially in the Beach Hampton community where the lots are similarly extraordinarily small and the property is almost surrounded on 2 or 3 sides by wetlands. But I can't think of a circumstance like this where the sanitary system is moving measurably closer, 50% closer than the existing system from a wetland of this size and significance. And again, it's dynamic. This wetland is not likely to stay this way forever based on what we're seeing going on around it. So why would you install a sanitary system 12 feet from an area that's getting wetter? That's not a service to the applicant. It's definitely not a service to public health. And I do think it's contrary to the zoning code, and it is absolutely contrary to our coastal assessment and resiliency plan, our CARP plan, which really says, hey, take a look at what hazards are out there and plan for them accordingly. And raising this house to meet FEMA is part of planning for that accordingly. You know, that's a conversation that I'm moving on to now. But installing a sanitary system in an area that you know is going to be that's already a problem, and that problem is going to be greater in the future, it is contrary to good coastal planning on every single level. With regard to the pyramid variances in the application, the pyramid variance from the north side of the property is clearly related or almost exclusively related to raising the house to meet FEMA. The pyramid variance on the south side of the property is at least triggered in part, if not in whole, by the addition that's proposed there, which I think warrants the board's scrutiny. Similarly, the addition, the pyramid variance on the east side of the property, the street side of the property, are also exacerbated by the proposed addition. I'm going to go back to that old CO, or maybe I'll go to the survey, but this area of decking on the front property is different on the CO than it exists in the field now. It does appear that it has been enlarged, and it's deep within front yard setbacks. It's about 10 feet from the front yard lot line. This is a very high visible property. The Mulford Lane is a private road. It's the road end, which this is literally a stone's throw from, is used by the entire community as a community beach resource, and anything that impacts the community's use of the beach, either visually or access-wise for a construction protocol, is something that should be scrutinized. But if you take a look at that 2012 CO and take a look at the survey, either the one from April or the one in October, you'll see the decking is more extensive. And that's something that was not included in the relief of the applicant. Neither is what appears to be an expansion of the driveway and this retaining wall, which brings it back to the western limit of the house. I don't know if this is all gravel in this area here, and Mr. Rhodes is here, he can speak to that. But bringing the driveway and the retaining wall is not reflected on the survey, and warrants some clarification. It would affect the total coverage of the lot, and that's why it should be part of the site plan of the survey. I think that's it. I think, respectfully, I think the board has to ask itself if this application meets any of the variance standards. Does this protect the character of the neighborhood? The fact that there are larger houses really don't matter if they don't share the same physical constraints, both dimensionally and environmentally, with both the wetland in the past and its history of fill. The variances are numerically substantial. There may be alternatives that have not been adequately explored. And the fact that the applicant acquired the property, none of the town's laws have changed. If the applicant acquired the property in 2017 with these conditions, with these needs for additional space, then that is a self-created difficulty. And again, whether this meets any of the variance standards is an evaluation that the board is going to have to look at when you assess the application. I do think you need a detailed construction protocol. What's happening? I mean, I think we're kind of spinning our gears if we spend a lot of time on this project, but it's the applicant's gears to spin if they want to. Is the wetland going to get restored before the sanitary system is going in? What protection measures are going to be put into place here? If you're bringing in fill above, if you need a foot of fill above the sanitary system, you further reduce the ability of the wetland and the adjacent areas to attenuate flood water. Is there room to stage everything without blocking the road end?
The shoreline.
Access to the shoreline, exactly. That's the. These are all things that that I think need to be considered before or as part of any application on this property. I'm going to, in the interest of time, I'm not going to bring up the 2012 CO. You saw it before. You have it in your file. I'm sure Deborah has it as well. I'm going to suggest that there appears to be a difference in the extent of decking when you take a look at the most recent surveys and the 2012 surveys, and that there's additional relief required from the street that isn't included in the application. And if there are any other questions that the board members have, I'll do my best to answer them.
Anyone have any questions for Brian?
No, I think he covered it.
Okay, before you come back up, we have to check and see. Thank you, Brian. Is there anybody here who wants to speak to this application other than Mr. Rose? Okay. Is there anyone on the line?
No.
On the phone waiting for us?
No, there's not.
Okay, with that then, Deborah, please come back up if you care to.
Okay, so I want to go back and address the timeline of events with regard to the allegations of clearing and the idea that there has been fill placed, and also to explain from the applicant's perspective how it would have become triggered that he would have learned of this. So he purchased the property in 2017. When he purchased the property, again, just looking at the survey, you look at the calculations on the side, it's not over cleared. So it wouldn't trigger some kind of title issue to make him or even council aware of that, particularly when there's no violation issued on the property. So in a title search, when there's no code enforcement, no written violation, it's not over cleared, there's no title issue, it gets seamlessly transferred and isn't an issue. When our office brought this application to the ZBA, and it was, you know, again, just to basically insulate this small area of enclosure on the existing deck, it was brought to our attention. I wasn't sure at that point if the applicant knew about it and if he would consider revegetation. He did consider revegetation. We worked with our local landscaper who put together this revegetation plan. Again, it was at that time a more minor application. Mr. Frank continued to encourage us to specifically consider a septic upgrade. The new septic systems require more space than what is required of cesspools. So to say that it is getting dangerously close to the wetland, that's partially just a fact of life now when you have these larger systems, and David Rhodes will definitely be able to speak to that later. But it's unfair to continually impart some kind of criminal liability on the current owner, and even though it is, maybe it comes across as evasive that I don't want to admit about clearing or fill. It's not that I don't acknowledge that when you look at the aerials, you do see that. That's why we have this revegetation plan proposed to you. But I don't know who did it. I don't know exactly when it was done. I don't know what kind of fill. I don't know what the contours were. So again, we're happy to work with the planning department. We have been happy to work with the planning department. If there had been a more specific idea about what was wanted, I wish that that would have come to us prior to this moment. This application has been pending for a very, very long time prior to receiving our technical analysis memo. With regard to the DEC permits, again, when it was brought to our attention initially with our initial application that, by the way, you're going to need DEC permits, which of course we knew, we made our application to the DEC. When we started receiving feedback about the changing nature of the application, we didn't seek to modify those permits yet because we need to see what happens here first. We don't want to apply to modify our permits with the DEC multiple occasions, but I will tell you that in my experience, the permits have been issued, a modification of those permits to include a septic upgrade and to demonstrate the new design elements of the house and FEMA compliance. My expectation with that is that those would be easily granted. When it comes to saying that these variances are numerically substantial, that is incorrect as a matter of law. That cannot be said on this application. As Mr. Frank already acknowledged, the home is approximately 40 feet from the wetland. So the variances that we're seeking from this wetland do not increase that degree of nonconformity and are on the landward side of the home. So you cannot say that this is substantial. With regard to the decking that he believes has increased in size, I haven't scrutinized it for that reason, but I would note that there's an area of decking on the front of the house that's proposed to be removed. So I think that should satisfy that issue. So some of these issues that have cropped up along the way have certainly felt like to the applicant and to the experts working on this project, like darts being thrown at us. And we have continually tried to satisfy the criteria of the planning department. And here we are with an application that we believe is attractive and satisfies the criteria of the town code, as well as the Suffolk County Code. And, if there were, as David had spoken about, potentially swapping out 2 areas of the septic system that could potentially give us 5 more feet, that would be great. That sounds like that's not an issue. And when it comes to the other conditions that were enumerated in the TAM, we're amenable to them. So to make this application seem more than it is disingenuous, and I do hope that the board looks at it as, again, that it's extraordinarily minimal and was specifically designed to start addressing some of those issues. And when it comes to adding fill for the septic system, that's also part of the FEMA compliance. So you can't have a septic system below a certain elevation, as I'm sure David will speak to. So thank you so much. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to address them.
You know what our problem's going to be here, and that is that we're looking at a very, very conflicted location for this septic system. And as was pointed out by various people here, we don't have other conditions like this. We don't have that. And it's very telling that we do have 3 to 4 foot elevation for this wetland, and that was pointed out by Mr. Frank, that, we have the Spartanopatens coming in, which is reflecting salt water. So we know there's an intrusion going on. This is a very delicate spot. I know what you're up against, and I know what you're trying to do. I mean, we realize that you have a very small lot. Anything you do is going to have a problem. This is a particular problem, though, because we're going to approve a system that very likely going to have some potential future damage to it. So anyway,
But
we'll let Mr. Rose.
So it begins to feel like at this point that there's no way out, right? So if there's nowhere to put a new septic system, then what's the answer? And if we don't have one, then that isn't correct. So partially we're here trying to do what we see as an enormous benefit, and we're trying to do it the right way. So we're certainly open to receiving feedback, but it's just above my pay grade when it comes to designing the septic system.
Well, we don't redesign projects for people.
Of course.
All of you are paid very good money to do that. But you might have to look at this, reconfigure the driveway, the addition, because when we're looking at a natural resource special permit, and a new septic system is 12 feet from a large significant wetland in a flood-prone area, that is a major concern for us in terms of saying yes to a natural resource special permit. So maybe more alternatives have to be explored, which are required in 255-551D. It actually requires that alternative reasonable uses of the property are determined not to exist. Your handicap is a 6,000 square foot lot. I mean, we agree with you, but we're charged
Can the
with-
addition be moved? Is that a possibility?
So, we'll hear from David. I'm not sure that moving the addition would help us with the septic. So he'll be able to answer that, but I'm not sure that it alleviates the specific problems with the design here. So
I mean, we're not really here, we're not the planning board, we're the zoning
Understood,
board. We're
yeah.
not here to redesign your project. But we are here, and we're being very honest in telling you what we're charged with, and, which is why we need to get a construction protocol for staging of equipment and materials. It's because of the small size of the lot, the proximity to the wetlands. this is a very, very, very constrained lot.
Absolutely, and we took that into consideration as a recommendation before we saw that more formalized in the TAM. We wanted to make sure, based on Brian's, question, that the structure was sound, and so we had engineers, and I submitted that to the board just to make sure that the structure is structurally sound to be lifted, and that sort of protocols are proper, but we didn't submit those protocols yet, but I wouldn't perceive that as being a problem.
Yeah.
And also, I can't reiterate it enough, the TAM also recommends that the installation of the sanitary system is inconsistent with the CART plan.
That,
We have to take that into consideration in terms of adapting to rising sea level, especially in erosion or flood-prone areas, which this is.
I understand that, certainly concern. It's perplexing to me that putting in a new system in a sensitive area would somehow be looked at as not favorable to that policy. So for me, it was relayed that this was something that was really wanted. We championed it with our client, and we were able to bring it to fruition because we do see it as a tremendous benefit. When Brian and I had these frank discussions years ago about the aging septic, he referred to the current aging septic as being in the wetland and potentially failing. So we have no reason to think it's failing, but we wanted to make sure we were addressing that concern. And these new septic systems do take up more space.
Well, thank you. Do we want to hear from Mr. Rose again? Thank you.
David Rose with TF Engineering again. So we did look at other systems for in here, and we know that these sites are very sensitive to fill. So when we use a pressurized shallow drain field, we only need to be 3.5 feet from the highest expected groundwater elevation to finished grade. When we switch to a leaching pool or a galley, we have to be 5.5 feet. So that means those systems have to go 2 feet higher than a pressurized shallow drain field. In addition to that, 2 additional feet, they need a retaining wall around them. And the retaining wall has to be 10 feet from the septic system. So if you look at even a single row of galleys along a property line, you're looking at the retaining wall, 10 feet of separation, 4.75 feet for the galley, 10 foot, the retaining wall, and then your building. So you're looking at about 27 feet wide for a septic system where you only have 50-foot wide property. So half the property is going to be taken up in your septic system. And if we do a pressurized shallow drain field, we need 28 feet to meet county compliance, and it's 68 feet long. Again, you're talking 28 feet wide of a 50-foot wide property. So that's the challenges we're coming up with, of trying to fit that in a different location, is we just can't make those work without taking half the property.
So if you move the addition to the back of the house and you shorten the driveway, is it possible to put it in that location? Or you're saying there's no room for it?
You got to ask the question again. I'm not sure what.
Well, you've just said that you're going to need 28 feet in width just to get
To get a conventional system with leaching galleys in there.
So you're essentially saying that you don't believe it can go along the south side of the house?
Or the north side.
Configured.
I think if you go either way, we can reduce that down by 5 feet. We ask for a variance from the county instead of 10 feet from between the septic system and the house. We could ask for 5 feet. That's an option, but so now you're down to 23 feet.
All right. Well, that is an option.
Yeah, so that's an option, but it's still 23 feet of 50 feet, so that leaves you.
Leave no room to build a house.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is if you want to try to put a conventional, a leaching galley or leaching pool so that you can drive on it, that's elevated 3 feet in the air. Now you can't get your driveway up on top of the wall because you're 3 feet up and there's no way to ramp it up to get it up there. So those are all, I mean, we've looked at them, and that would, in order to go with that type of galley or pool, that's going to be a significantly more amount of fill than a pressurized shallow drain field, which is why we tend to always go with the pressurized shallow drain field when we go in these sensitive areas. Because again, it's 3.5 feet versus 5.5 feet from groundwater.
What was the problem with putting it in the front of the house again?
I know.
So the first issue is that if you line it all up, if you take your drain field, you take all the separations, you got your pump basin and your treatment tank, I need 65 feet where there's only 50 feet available. We also, the county doesn't let you cross your septic systems and your water lines. So how do you get your water line past the septic system if it's taken up your entire front yard? You got electric line going underneath there. So that's the problem. And then if we're going along the north side, we got the 28 feet taken along the north side as well. So 20 to 28.
Any other questions from Mr. Roy? I appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Brian, you want to come back up?
Just two minor points. One about the clearing and the filling of the wetlands, which again, the planning department thinks is still one of the most significant either unresolved or poorly resolved issues associated with the application. I just want to be clear, Deborah and I had a number of conversations over the years, but as recently as October 23rd, 2020, Brian Matthews and I had a very detailed conversation about a possible way forward. And while it was kind of I don't want to say off the record conversation, I don't think I don't know what the right term is. I don't know if I don't think it's appropriate for me to share the content of that discussion, but I do think it's appropriate to share the fact that, Brian contacted me to say, hey, let's see what we can spitball here about going forward with this and a possible way to resolve it. So there's never been any, I just want to make it clear, there's never been any ambiguity from the planning department about what happened on this property, historically. It's clear from the surveys, it's clear from the aerial, it's clear from my personal experience in being there, what happened and even when. I mean, that lawn is pretty well established in that 2018 aerial. Those are taken in late winter, early spring. So logically, that was done in 2017 if that area was vegetated in 2016. And the record suggests that the current owners became the owner in late 2017. So that's not that much of a mystery here. Again, the planning department always felt that the proper resolution, which again, this application doesn't have, of clearing and filling this area, was paramount in meeting the NRSP standards for any application. In terms of the sanitary system, Deborah's correct that we did point that I did discuss that any increase in GFA with an outdated sanitary, with a cesspool like this, warrants taking a look at a septic upgrade. I don't recall ever describing the system as failing because I don't really have anything to base that on. And we certainly never discussed the location as close to the wetland as it is now. So I don't know if that's probably not clear either from the TAM or the discussion that we've had tonight, but I want to get that out there that yes, I encouraged the applicant to look at upgrading the sanitary system, knowing that it was a cesspool, most likely in groundwater, in conjunction with any.
I mean, is that a fact? It does not meet health department.
Well,
The sanitary system as it exists right now.
What we see on the site plan
Standards for health
is a
department.
single ring, which suggests I can't say definitively, but anytime we have seen something like this on a site plan, and I welcome David's opinion, it usually indicates a cesspool, not a tank, and there's no record of a septic installation in the history of this property, and the house predates zoning, as Deborah correctly noted earlier. So it is much more likely than not that what's there is a cesspool. And does that sound about right? All right, sure. That was it, though. I just want to be, clear about,
And that can't be checked?
I mean, right, I mean, yeah. I mean, if the
I'm going
current,
to let the applicant speak to that.
because the septic system appears to be the issue.
Okay, thank you. David, for a third time?
We're getting a lesson in.
David Rhodes with TF Engineering. I agree with Brian 100% that, with the elevations that are out there, we haven't exposed it, so I can't tell you for sure what's in the ground. But based on the elevations, and as I told you, you need 5.5 feet, just for a 2-footer. And so you're only looking at elevation of 5, so you've got to be in the groundwater. And if you're a single pool, there's no way you're going to get 12-foot deep, which is what's required by health department. So in order to comply with health department standards, you need 6 leaching pools,
Right.
where there's really one shown. So
Okay.
I don't know for sure, but I agree with Brian 100% that it's probably in the groundwater.
Likely it's an old style block,
Right.
Block
cesspool.
or, and maybe it was replaced with precast, but it's
we don't know.
replaced in
Right.
kind at the time. We don't know, but it's not compliant would be my guess.
Okay,
Thank you, David.
thank you.
Any last comment? Good way to go. We've gone back and forth about this. You don't have to rehash anything.
So
But
I would just thank you all for the evening and for your time. And we are certainly receptive to the conditions that were enumerated in the TAM. And so in terms of looking at the clearing and the alleged fill, again, I don't dispute that occurred. And I, don't dispute that Brian has knowledge of that, but, and we'd be happy to remediate that in some way. We did propose a plan. It's been pending for some time. We'd be happy to take another look at it to satisfy the planning department in that regard.
So do you want a couple weeks? What is it you're looking for?
Yeah, I would appreciate, let's see, we're in,
We're going to ask for a construction protocol too.
okay.
you're looking for what kind of time?
Yeah, I would say, I'm trying to think of what the date is. I would say, let's give our experts a month maybe, just because the landscaper was difficult to nail down the first time. So maybe 1 month to make the submission for a new landscape re-veg plan and construction protocol, if you wouldn't mind.
That'll take you right to the end of the year, right?
Yeah. Is that a?
You can't.
Longer?
You can't.
It's your holiday.
Fair. Well, yeah, maybe I'm putting, the burden is more on them than me. I just write a cover letter, so.
Figure a date on that? You know what it is?
Is that January 6th? That's our next.
No.
1 month?
No, but I think the next.
next meeting?
Meeting date is January 6th. Is that right?
Is this a hearing we should continue, or are we going to close upon submission? Is this something we should continue the public hearing once we receive it?
Yeah, I don't know. We're going to go to Robert for
Make Rob.
recommendations on that, but it doesn't seem like we have to continue it to me.
How does council feel?
You're probably going to want to be able to discuss the
Yes.
construction protocol,
I think so too.
and there might be some questions that you're going to have regarding the septic.
So it wouldn't be.
So it would be a
admin questions or
continuation then.
So we could do a
Right,
continuation.
and it's up to Deb too, if she wants to explain anything further once.
I don't mind fielding questions, so that's fine with me if you want to leave it open for our submission and be able to have another
Have a
discussion.
continuation in January?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's been so much conversation here, that any clarification you can make is certainly going to
Absolutely, I
help us in our
understand.
decision-making. Yeah.
So
Okay,
then we need a
so
date.
So
we need a
January-
date.
Yeah, we can.
January
January
9th.
9th?
January 9th.
Do we, and you
Is that
you
enough
have the
time to
do that,
submit and have
Samantha?
us look at?
Well, when are we going to receive your documents?
Maybe because of the holidays, if you wouldn't mind going further out, that would probably be helpful to the others involved. I don't want to put them on such a
When do you want to
tight.
close it by?
I don't have my calendar. I would say end of January would be,
And then could we have, well, if we're going to have and of course, planning would have to receive a copy of everything
yes,
as
of
well.
course.
So
end
you
of
want to go 2 months
January, what
out
date?
now? This is the end of November, so you want to
Yes,
go to the end of January. Okay.
8 weeks?
So we're giving you 8 weeks.
Well, we have to set a date if we're continuing.
Yeah,
I
we are.
understand.
So
That's what we're
let's-
trying to do.
Samantha,
Yeah.
what is 8, if we look at 8 weeks out, what would that hearing date be?
I don't have the
February 6th? I have Tuesday, February 6th, or January 30th.
I think you'd have to go February 6th. Yeah,
February 6th?
yeah.
So would it be possible to get your additional paperwork in, say, in 6 weeks, so that planning will have time to process it and we'll get copies of it?
Well, no, if you're going to make a submission, then planning will get it as well.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a scheduled
And then we're
hearing, and
going
we can all
to talk
discuss it
about it
together.
at the hearing.
Let's just go with that, January 9th, did you say it was?
February,
Oh, February?
6th.
February.
February 6th, 8 weeks for submission.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So in the matter of Brett Los Calzo,
If you don't mind, I just wanted to just note for the record that there is absolutely no one calling in. I just wanted to make sure that was noted.
I'm very sorry about that. Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to comment on this? Obviously not. Is there anyone online who wanted to make a comment?
There is still no one online who would like to make a comment, so you're set.
Thank you very much. Now we can go to,
so in the matter of Brett Los Calzo, 149 Mulford Lane, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-84-02-07, I make a motion to adjourn the hearing until February 6th, and the applicant will supply a new re-veg plan and construction protocol and any other materials that
enforce
the
it.
applicant deems appropriate.
Thank you so much.
Get a second on that?
Second.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you. We
Oh, we
okay
have to
with-
do the minutes.
We're not done.
No, we've got it.
No, we've
Admin.
got admin too. So we're going to move on to a work session here. We have administrative applications. First one is the estate of Bonnie Jacobson, 34 Fenmarsh Road, East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-0039-01-2, for the demolition of the existing improvements on the property, some of which are within 150 feet of wetlands, and Brian is going to help us with this.
Board members, this is a property that that is in contract with the town for purchase through CPF. And excuse me, some of the improvements, this is the property, obviously the wetlands are along the shoreline, it's on Hog Creek. The applicants, the current owners need to demolish the improvements on the property, either remove or abandon the sanitary system and kind of naturalize, seed the property before transferring title to the town. On these CPF properties, we have done them all administratively. And I do want to remind the board of what has been kind of a standing practice, because a lot of these are become time sensitive as people are transferring property and looking to be able to get this done, to get the money from the town to usually, associated with other purchases. So we have been proceeding with the administrative notice on these when we get the application and kind of informing the board along the way. There are no structures proposed in the application. Clearing is limited. We usually require, we always can require sediment control. We generally look at where the construction access is coming to and from to make sure disturbance on the property is minimized and that areas that are currently natural don't get trashed in conjunction with the demolition of the improvements. And that's kind of the extent of an NRSP for a CPF acquisition. But we do want to keep the board apprised of these at least somewhere along the way. And that's this application. I have the survey here as well. It's not super exciting. Here's the house, the driveway, the swimming pool, and the wetlands along the shoreline.
Most of the questions you've answered, you design access to and from the property so that it's done as systematically and carefully as possible, and it's going to get revegetated when it's done, when you're done with it.
Correct. Sometimes these require DEC permits as well. I believe this one may not because I think it's all above the 10-foot contour line, which is generally the DEC's limit on tidal wetlands anyway. But on some of these applications, they're required to get DEC permits as well.
Okay. Anybody have any objection to this? Up and
I do
down the
not.
board?
I do not.
Sounds like a good one to me. Who's going to make a motion here?
I'll make a motion. In the matter of the application of the estate of Bonnie Jacobson, 2034 Fenmarsh Road in East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-39-1-2, I make a motion that the application go administratively.
Second.
Concur.
I concur as well. Thank you. Our second admin here is for Wendy, or let me change my glasses here. Wendy R. Beer, Revocable Trust, 223 Kings Point Road, East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-24-1-3B, to construct a 987 square foot swimming pool, 355 square foot patio, 100 square foot hot tub, retaining walls, planters, and to clear approximately 1,066 square feet of vegetation within jurisdiction of the edge of beach.
So board members, this property is on Kings Point Road. I can show you the aerial if you'd like to see it. It's an unbulkheaded property on Kings Point Road. The Bluff Crest is in this location here, and the property continues to slope upwards. They're actually out of our Bluff Crest jurisdiction, as Tyler properly included in the notice. They are within a portion of it is within 150 feet of the edge of beach. That's the toe of the bluff. And Tyler's showing you about where that is on this markup of the PDF. So that 150-foot line, kind of cuts through the seaward portion of the pool. So even though this is on the water side of the house, it really is on the cusp of natural resources jurisdiction. It's I don't want to say barely in, but I don't really have a more articulate way to describe it. It is at the kind of the outer limits of natural resources jurisdiction. And you see where the 100-foot Bluff Crest setback is. There's a nominal amount of new clearing more than 100 feet from the bluff. And the planning department thinks this is a reasonable candidate for administrative review.
Again, any comments?
100 square foot hot tub?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll go back to that.
By 10.
This is the property from the aerial, just so that you can see what the physical conditions on the property look like. But let me go back to
Doesn't that usually need it?
10 by 10 might be the hot tub.
Where's that?
10 by 10.
10 by 10, yeah, that's,
It's a big hut.
But I think actually this is probably out of jurisdiction.
Oh,
so I was going to say, if it is that large, over 5, what's the code say with?
It would be treated as a swimming pool, but it would meet all the swimming pool set. It's going to meet the same, it's going to meet or exceed the same setbacks as the swimming pool. So if it did have to meet swimming pool setbacks, it would comply with them.
Because I think, what is it, over 5?
6 foot diameter is, it triggers
It's
that.
subject to the same as a swimming pool.
Correct.
But as it is, the only thing within jurisdiction here is one leading edge of the pool.
Right. This is roughly the line. So the seaward third, if you want to call it that, of the swimming pool and some coping and steps are in NRSP jurisdiction.
Again, anyone have any other comment? Harry, we okay with it?
no, it's okay.
Okay,
It's scary, but it's okay.
Do you want me to make a motion?
please do.
In the matter of the application of Wendy R. Beer Revocable Trust, 223 Kings Point Road, East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-24-1-38, I make a motion that the application go administratively.
Second.
Concur.
I concur as well. Thank you. Then under other decisions tonight, we have a Jello at 19 Fenwick and 13 Fairview, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-019-B-21 and 22.1, This is a discussion of a revegetation plan submitted in July of 2023.
Well, I don't know, I don't want to add to the record, this is really work session. You have written submissions from the applicant explaining why they think the revegetation plan is appropriate. You have a memorandum from the planning department explaining why the planning department thinks it's deficient. So I'm sure Andy is familiar with it and would speak to it if I spoke to it. So I'm going to suggest neither of us say anything unless you have a question.
I don't have a question.
Okay, we should open up to a little discussion here. Has everybody read the memorandum, the letter we received both from Mr. Agello, I think was who signed it, but anyway, the Agellos sent in their opinion, and then there was Lighthouse Land Planning sent us an analysis of where they think the situation is now. I'm going to say that when I read through this, I know that there was a decision made based on lots of factors. The Agellos have brought up that they sacrificed a great deal. They mentioned several times in their letter that the lot that they were willing to abandon the future development on is worth $500,000 or some significant sum, and that in doing so, they were looking for more flexibility in this planning plan, and that what was going on up and down the driveway on the lot that has been abandoned had been cleared earlier, and that they were looking to bring in something a little, I would use the word handsome, but a little more variety than was suggested by our planners. I consider it for myself that anything that was agreed to in a previous agreement really doesn't affect this. What we decided on when we granted what we did, the approvals we did, we gave them some stipulations for one of them was that this area was to be planted accordingly, according to the standards of our planning department. So for me, I think that while I understand they want to see this to be more aesthetic, we weren't looking for a garden here. We were looking to have this revegetated as naturally as possible. So I don't think there's any change in condition from the night we made our decision. So I'm willing to say that I would like to see this. They would be required to plant according to the agreement that was made when we made our decision, whatever date that was, several months ago. And then I'd like anyone else's opinion here of what they think about this.
Well, I agree with what the planners have said, that they, it should be a regular revegetation. What they've proposed here is kind of a pollinator-ish kind of garden, and it's not going to provide the woody vegetation that would help retard invasives from creeping back in and other things. So I think it should be the typical kind of woody vegetation that we usually get, and that the planning department usually recommends in Brian's memo. They did have some northern bayberry in the proposal. However, they did not include any inkberry, pepperbush, chokeberry, which are also pretty. And they are more conducive to providing a better protection from invasives encroaching again and protecting the property and the scenic easement. I agree with that, with the planning's submission of it, that this one is not adequate.
Joan?
Submitted.
I agree with Ed and Terry. I mean, when we ask for a revegetation plan, we ask for one with native plantings to prevent invasives. Maybe they should try a different landscaping service that could work with them more. Maybe there's some room for compromise, but pollinator garden doesn't quite cut it.
I too agree. I'm in agreement with my fellow board members, and I am in compliance with the recommendations made by our planning department.
Yeah, I kind of think when you bring back up the conditions that we've already talked about in the first decision, that was all factored into our approval. And so I'm willing to stick, as everyone else has said, with the approval as was granted.
Very well said.
Is that enough, Robert, for this? Yeah.
Not really.
Is that correct? Is that protocol acceptable to have him approach the board now?
Not usually in a work
Public
session.
hearing, but it's up to the board if the board wants to.
I mean, I don't think there's any reason.
I'll poll the board. What do you think? No? No? I mean, Andy, I appreciate you being here and staying the time, but I think we're pretty firm with 4 votes here that all think that what we're doing is just reinforcing the original decision.
The condition, there wasn't, if you read the actual determination, it does not say that. I think the criteria you're reading are incorrect. I'm going to read that station.
Okay, thank you, Andy.
There's room for negotiation.
Okay, moving on. Thank you, Andy, for staying all night. I'm sure. We have the draft minutes of approval here.
Yes. Yeah, I would like to make a motion to approve the draft minutes for November 14th, 2023 for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second?
Concur.
Concur.
Second, okay. Doesn't matter.
Second, Joan.
No matter.
We concur. I don't know if everybody else has this on the agenda.
Oh,
People
no.
may have it on the agenda.
What?
We're not going to read the resolution tonight, or
Whalen. Yeah, we're not
Whalen.
going to.
we're not
Okay.
going to. I don't know if anybody had it. Just want to make sure you understand we're not doing that
When did we get
tonight.
it?
No, yeah,
Well, it was
it's going to
on
be
there.
on for next week.
We'll put it on for next week.
We
It
got
was
one?
on
When
tonight.
did we get sent it? I don't
Tomorrow.
recall
No,
seeing
it gets
it.
sent tomorrow.
Either way, we're not
Tomorrow.
doing it tonight.
Oh, okay, tomorrow they sent
Yeah,
it.
that's why I didn't get it.
That's why I didn't see it.
I'd like to adjourn the meeting tonight in replacement of me. Would you like to do it?
Go ahead, Terry.
Terry?
Oh, let me do it. I even know what time it is. For the East Hampton Town
Joan,
Zoning
you
Board
can
of
second.
Appeals meeting for Tuesday, November 28th at I used military time, at 9:25 PM. I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I concur.
I concur as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
I said 21:25.